Hello, welcome to Waiting for Game podcast presented to you by Melee Stats. I am your host, Gimme Dat Wheat, and normally I introduce myself. I call myself a tournament seeder. I call myself a top 100. I forget what I call it. Top 100 maker, whatever it is. Um, but on this special episode, I would like to say I'm also Smash World Tour. What am I? What is my title? So it turns out I
Coordinator?
really don't know my titles very well. Well, I am involved in Smash World Tour, and that is going to be a perfect opportunity to talk about what we're going to talk about today. We are coming up on a pretty great couple weekends of Melee in front of us. We had a couple good weekends of Smash, and I think that the weekends we're going to see for Melee are going to be pretty awesome. The little bite of cold is in the air over on this East Coast, and if you can tell if you're watching video, I'm wearing some plaid. I'm wearing a sweatshirt. We're getting into fall. We're getting into the fall season, and we're going to talk SmashCon Fall Fest. We're going to talk Smash World Tour, both on the North American West Coast and Europe. So to do so, I have my good friend and fellow fall enjoyer, Edwin Budding. How's it going, Edwin?
It's going great, Wheat. I am really excited to talk about an exciting weekend of Melee that just happened, and I'm excited to talk about Smash World Tour coming up in two of the most prominent regions of the world.
And fall. You're excited about fall, correct?
Yes, that too.
The
It's
leaves
football
changing
season.
color, of course. And who knows fall better than a top 16 placer at SmashCon Fall Fest, a commentator at SmashCon Fall Fest, maybe a commentator at a few other things. Who knows? We have our very own friend, first time friend of the show in official capacity, DarkGenex. What is up, Justin?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you for the intro. Thank you, and I actually can't believe that I got top 16 at a Super Smash Con, just in general. Definitely not a super major, but was very surprised to see myself on Championship Sunday. So, and pretty happy with my block too. So, also great to be here as part of Waiting for Game. Uh, Shouts to
Yeah,
Melee Stats and everything you do. So
you,
great
you
to be
know,
here.
not only are you you're a friend of us. Now you're officially a friend of the show, patron,
Awesome.
and yeah, part of the Melee Stats extended universe. So I'm very happy to be able to get you officially in here. Four more of these, and you get a jacket for yourself. So
Let's go.
hopefully we never get to that day. But speaking of getting to, let's get to the thing that you just talked about your experience at SmashCon Fall Fest. Let's hear a little bit more about it. It wasn't the biggest tournament that we saw, of course, but I do want to hear about your personal experiences there because I think for a lot of people have not gone to events yet. If they've gone to events, a lot of people have only really gone to small locals. What was your experience going to this? Did you ended up going to Riptide, correct?
Yeah, I did go to Riptide as well.
So you had experience going to like a major
Yes.
in the post COVID in the during COVID
During
era.
COVID, post quarantine
uh,
era.
so how did the tournament itself feel? How did it treat you?
So I've been to my fair share of like regionals, larger events, majors, locals, etc. throughout my time playing the game, and Super Smash Con Fall Fest definitely felt like at least feeling wise, somewhere between a larger regional with multiple out of state players and a major. So it was in a hotel. There were a couple of conference rooms in the hotel which were booked for like the staff room for the various games. There was a room specifically for Melee with CRTs, an arcade room, and there was a room for Nickelodeon as well as Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then Wii U and Brawl and 64 were in other areas, etc. And it felt like things were getting back to normal. It was really interesting because there were like a lot of players from different regions in Ultimate, but in Melee it was primarily people from MDVA. Like there were a handful of Jerseyans, a handful of Floridians, not too much from elsewhere, but it felt like an MDVA regional with some special guests. But for what it was worth, the other things that they had to do made it feel more like a homely, like major esque event. The cornhole, Hugo Hugs's his
The
craft beer
craft beer,
tasting.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
didn't get to attend that actually, but I don't drink. But from what I heard, people who attended it, they had a great time, etc. And then also just like going out to get dinner with like all the Smash friends from all the different regions and getting to play friendlies with people. It's like it feels good. It is a good feeling to be able to like go to these events, see all like my friends from NetPlay and friends from like different regions, and also like cheer on the New Jersey people. We had 5 out of 16 of New Jersey making top 16, and then none of us won a set. But it was great cheering us on. Number one fan of Jersey in the house right now. So.
That is very true. I will cede that to you. You can be the number one fan of Jersey. I don't think me and Edwin are taking that away from you. Yeah, I
No,
mean
no chance. I don't
it
even know if
really
we qualify for the position of fan. Are we fans of New Jersey? I can't really tell.
I mean,
You like
I
BBats?
live very close to the New Jersey border. You do not.
Sure.
I have family who's from New Jersey. I go to the Jersey Shore. I saw Clutch on the boardwalk one time, and I thought it'd be very funny to like fanboy him. But then unfortunately, I had something else. I like got distracted by something else. Uh, so am I a Jersey fan? No. No, I don't know. I'm
I
fine
feel
with
like we
Jersey.
just have a fascination with New Jersey.
In terms of
Just
melee, we definitely have a fascination
Mhm.
with Jersey, and I think that our fascination ends up being with like we truly have no idea who we know who's good in Jersey. We just don't know what that means because the eighth player on the Jersey PR might be second on the next one, and then the third player on the Jersey PR might be 12th on the next PR. Like it's impossible to tell, and I don't think that this tournament really helped figure that out. We did see a lot of Jersey people, but I feel like it was kind of like a mishmash of people who we kind of expect to do well, and I don't know what we really learned from this. I think that was kind of the case in general. Like, so what do you think, Edwin? We had a lot of people at this event who this is a regional level event. I think we saw regional level players, and a lot of them got maybe further than I would predict. If you look at like No Fluxes or Juicebox, I think it was hard to predict that they'd get that far. But does this change your opinion of anyone? Like, who do you come away with a different view of them after SmashCon Fall Fest?
it's funny you mentioned Juicebox because I actually come away with this event thinking quite a lot more fondly of excuse me, not a lot more fondly. No, I get along fine with Junebox. No, I think
Jukebox.
Junebox. Yeah,
You
I
said
think
Jukebox.
Juicebox for a long time was kind of like he's always been on the cusp, right? He's always
Big
been ranked in
cusper.
MD. He's always been ranked in MDVA. He's always done really well against in-region players, but we just haven't really seen him carry that over onto major brackets for a while now. And I think recently, I know he ran into Mog at Riptide, who he typically trends very positive against. But he beat Free Palestine there. He had a nice little run to second here. Beating some good players like Crikey and double eliminating No Fluxes, who apparently no one could beat that. No one else could beat that day. So I think for Juicebox to actually do well at events of prestige and to kind of like carry that over at consecutive events, that's something I actually haven't like while Juicebox has been a strong player in the past, that's not something that we're accustomed to seeing from him at like a large regional or even at like an arguable major like Riptide. So I think for kind of keeping himself composed and for doing well at two events, he's someone that I walk away from this event thinking a little bit differently about. Just if we're talking about the most notable names.
Yeah, kind of perennial outside top 100. I don't know if 2019, 2018, or something. I would say he was ballot worthy or right outside the ballot, but or I guess I shouldn't say he might not have been like 101 level in those years, but he was definitely outside ballot. Top 150 or something. You're right. Yeah, he was some really very good locally. He'd had a lot of good records, especially he had a very good, very positive record on Mog in 2019, the year where Mog got ranked like 77th. But yeah, I mean it's tough with a lot of those players. Like you have those local results, and then when it comes to the two or three majors that you are able kind of to like go to, you're able to cut time out of your schedule to go to. Um, no matter what you do on a local level, for players of that skill level, what happens at those 2 to 3 majors that you're able to attend will really color how people think about you. So it's interesting that you say this because I am not surprised that Juicebox is able to do this well because I kind of do think of him as a player like that. But I agree with what you're saying. Being able to thrive on a local level like that is very impressive, and it just like it makes me know that that Juicebox is a talented player. But being able to see it on a bigger stage even if this just was a regional, shows that that's like the next step, right? Shows that he very well could be taking the next step to top 100 caliber player. Justin, what do you think? Did you get to play anyone who like kind of surprised you this weekend? Anyone who maybe you had expectations about that you now look at differently?
Well, I did actually play Juicebox, the aforementioned Juicebox that we just discussed a little bit, and had a fairly close set. I mean, he won 3-1, but most of the games went like last hit. Definitely a very strong Sheik player, and I think that I mean he's been really good for a while. Like we've said, like top 150 level at the very lowest, always like on the cusp of that, being able to
Cusper.
beat top 100 players, like always beating top 100 players, etc. And regionally being a strong player. So I wasn't too surprised when he was good. Um, let me think. I think one person who he didn't do particularly like amazing in bracket, but someone I was very surprised by was Ben Snape actually. Um, he had a very close game 3 set with Wally in pools, and from what Wally said and told me after the set is that he could have lost that. And Wally, as a player who we've seen, has like been very consistent, lower on top 100 level at the moment, uh, doing well at like locally and at these regional events. And for him to be speaking highly of someone like Ben Snape, who isn't really as seen on the radar, I think that he could be someone to look out for in terms of like a player who maybe we weren't expecting to see at like playing at that kind of level, you know? Um, anyone else? I mean, I played Logan over the weekend in some friendlies, and they're like really, really good, regardless of how things went necessarily at Fall Fest. I expect to see like really good results from them as events go on. I actually was very surprised by Diz Kid Boogie. That is one person that I think uh, shocked me in terms of his results and how he played because he's not really very active. He said before the event he didn't really practice too much and he only enters Super Smash Con as a tradition and he does this every year. And he had some of the best ice climbers neutral out of like any of the ices I've played. And it was like really fascinating seeing because like the way he walls out spacies. And I also watched his set versus Fable. He 3-0'd Fable in winners. And he was just like on point with catching like full hops, making sure that it was like difficult to approach using like these desync blizzards and ice blocks and like squall hammer and just it was really interesting because like it was an older style ices but still was very effective at keeping people out. So I think if he were to enter things again and in general for ice climbers, I think that like people are saying the character is dead or not very active. And like, had I beaten Slug, I would have played 4 ice climbers in a row for top 8. So I don't really know where the narrative of all the ice climbers are in hibernation is coming from because I definitely had an entire bracket of ice climbers.
The
But
alternate universe of DarkGenex being added to the halls of top eight history at SmashCon. You could tell people that. Did you know I made top eight at SmashCon? They'd be like, "Oh my god, that's incredible." You'd be like, "Yeah, that's very true, very true." You
Sir,
know,
what is Ashcon? You're being pulled over. Don't you
uh,
know who I am?
what one thing that I was very impressed by, and I know it seems like something that the sets were close either way, and I know the second person is gonna hate me for bringing this up, but I was very impressed by Bones beating B-Bats and Wally back to back. I think you know not just because those two are very strong players who've had good years and they're on LAN and everything, but just Falco Peach beating those two back to back. I think especially for some like if you gave me B-Bats versus Bones and bracket before this event, I don't know, maybe
they
a little
played
scary.
at a
Yeah.
Xanadu,
hmm
and B-Bats won.
Yeah, exactly. So a little scary. So Bones doing the run back and taking down Wally, who I genuinely thought, and I even told Wally before the event and maybe cursed him that I thought this was an event that Wally with the right bracket could potentially win or finish second at. So for
Hmm.
Bones to beat that kind of caliber of player, especially after already beating P-Bats, I think was very good.
Yeah, he was kind of set up with a really good bracket.
hmm
I forget who he played in the round before Diz Kid Bookie, but he played Diz, who, you know, impressive neutral aside, I believe he got 3-0'd by Wally.
Yes,
And then he would be set to play Slug if not for the
The
cue
villain of Chicagoland
the
melee.
no
the
Flossie.
Deftones music because this is gonna be Edwin's like This is like Edwin's fantasy land right here.
Yeah, I
No
don't think
fluxes.
I will say I don't think No Fluxus is a Deftones guy. He definitely strikes me as more like a like just like classic 80s metal, like thrash metal or something. That really seems to be like maybe if it's there's something modern like American heavy metal. Yeah, so like it's very funny that No Fluxus beat Slug twice, which like if you think of it in terms of perceived rank, like it is a very impressive victory. Having the skill to beat a player like Slug will probably show that No Fluxus will be a scary opponent for like the best possible ice climbers they could come across in bracket. Now, with that said, I do think it's like I don't know if I necessarily learned anything new about No Fluxus after this event. I think the his path to third place here is very funny because it was very impressive. It involved getting double eliminated by Sheik, by someone like Juicebox. It's just like when you really look at it and think about like the way things could have turned out. You know, before the event, maybe you could have seen if you knew who knew No Fluxus were gonna play, you would think something like, "Oh yeah, like I think he could do that." And like him doing that, I think this is like near the peak of his performance, right? But I just don't know if it's telling us something that we don't know about what he's capable of with like the right circumstances.
It's
And
hard for
what
this, like,
yeah.
for the players that we saw the caliber of players that we saw. I mean, it's like perfect like net play stuff, right? Like, what did we come out of
Yeah.
net play knowing? Not a ton. We did learn a lot of stuff, but for having like 1 to 2 events every day of the week for a year, a year that Slippy was out, a year plus. Um, what we learned was kind of like shockingly low because when you look at the players who are below the top 100, below the top 150, that area right there, they're really good, and yet how they can do is so varied. So it's like what No Fluxes did. I would not have called it, but I'm not very surprised by it. But I also probably would not jump to say that this is like very easy to replicate on his end.
Yeah,
He had like
I will
10 majors. I'm not sure if you would do the same thing at like 9 of them.
Yeah, I want to mention that it's funny I mentioned Wally as someone who I thought with the right bracket could have won the event. But if I had to pick someone like considered by people to be like a worse player than Wally, that could maybe like give Wally like an otherwise very steady player trouble, No Fluxus would probably be near the top of that list. I think No Fluxus is just kind of like strangely I think his place in like a major field or a regional field is so bizarre. It's like this is like if No Fluxes runs into like J Salt at a major or Neplay tournament, it's over. It's like literally hopeless. There's no chance that he will win. But if you give No Fluxes like a bracket with like Bobby Big Balls or like a Falco player, like even Magi honestly, or and like maybe like a Peach player who's not familiar with Ganondorf, like I don't know, like I
No
just
He's
think
got a
he's
good
Fluxes,
he's in
matchup
this very
spread.
yeah, very bizarre matchup spread indeed.
he he reminds me of the melee equivalent of something that used to go by a name that I don't think anyone would call it nowadays, but he's like the melee finger trap, right? Like the more you want to beat No Fluxes, I think the more he will beat you. It's just like this weird thing if you have to go in and like not care about what happens. And I think that you win. But like the people who are like, God, I really hope I don't lose to No Flexes. I think those are the people who
Yeah,
go
it's
in and get
over.
3 0'd.
It's over.
You've already lost.
You're
Ganon
toasted.
eats that alive.
Yeah.
Ganon, I think, is like the ultimate fear character.
What is
The
fear?
moment.
Famously asked
It's
by Ganon himself.
fear.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, the second you show fear, Ganon's right there with the punch. So you got to watch out.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
talking about no fluxes. Oh my goodness.
yeah. I
On a
think
show
we
about
we
SmashCon.
we went a little over our no fluxes time. I was trying to get like a shot collar on you. So if you talk about no fluxes more than 2 minutes, you just get voltage. But unfortunately, our producer couldn't set that up. So um, but yeah, I mean, we're talking about SmashCon. This is like a very fun event because there's a lot of people who like there's a lot of people who this is like a perfect opportunity for them to really shine, and we did see that. We saw Juice Box, we saw No Fluxes, we saw the caliber of player who I don't think many people would know on like that level. We saw Crike, Scherzo. Like if you just look at this bracket itself, I think this is probably the first time that maybe a lot of people who'd be watching an event of this caliber would know these players or seen them this far. This is really cool, but it's also because we saw a lot of dropouts. Our top seed Logan, also a dropout, who initially had to, he dropped out. He wasn't able to attend, and they were able to find a way to attend, so they got subbed back in. But the players who we saw at one point signed up and dropped, Zane and Leffen, both of whom I assume were just kind of like very optimistic signups, like just in case anything changed, they have a slot. I wasn't very surprised that they dropped. We saw Hungry Bucks drop, Wizzy, Ginger, Swedish Delight. I mean, the question that I think that I want to pose to you two, um, what do majors look like in the future? Because after having seen what SmashCon looked like for Ultimate, which was one of the biggest majors of the year, which for Ultimate means a lot because they are having a lot of tournaments with top level play. We look at Melee, we have Smash Summit, and we have Riptide, which did not have Zane, did not have Mango, and obviously, did not have Leffen. But it's hard to really blame him for that. So, what is the future of Smash Majors in terms of Melee? I guess is the question that I want to pose to you two. Anoke, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think so. I this is just my starting impression on this, but I think that for the most part, like it depends on how Genesis goes next year. That's what I think. I think it depends on how Genesis runs, how safe it is, how many like how TOs get a better idea of what the risk is to run an event with a certain amount of people. I think depending on how the rest of the pandemic goes, like on additional variants or vaccines or whatnot, it seems quite likely that the very best players might be a little bit more selective about what they want to go to. You know, if it's Genesis or the Big House coming back in 2022, I think Zane, Mango, IBDW, and Hungrybox and Wizard will be there. But if there's other tournaments that feature a lot of mid-level talent and a lot of players like borderline top 10 or so, um, I think without knowing what the future of COVID has and its impact on events, and even like without information for TOs to make decision for players to make decisions based on like breakthrough cases or anything like that, I find it very difficult to see a future in which the very best of the field don't only go to the premier like tier 1 events and summit. I think it's very likely that we see them take it easy over the next half a year or so. Which isn't to say that that big regionals won't be really exciting, and it's not even to say that maybe if they're all in the same region at the same time that they enter something. I find it unlikely, because we're just in a time of uncertainty with
Hmm.
regards to that stuff, and I can't blame them. I don't blame them.
Yeah, Justin, I want your take on this, but I do think that Edwin's take, it's like unfortunately the smartest one is that we still are living in the reality of COVID, and having multiple tournaments within weeks of each other, and going to them is, not only does it take a toll, it's probably not smart to go to. So especially we look at someone like Zane, we look at someone like IBW. I do believe that they are, if not living with, I think, they see their family a lot, and it's kind of like you incur risk when it comes to that. I'm not like saying that ultimate players are being dumb, but I don't know. It is kind of funny to see a lot of top melee players making some pretty like calculated decisions about what tournaments they should go to, and not really seeing the same from ultimate. But I don't know like how much further to dig into that. But yeah, I think that this is kind of a tournament that we have not seen something snowball this hard, but It's the combination of not having Zayn and Mango. Mango, someone who doesn't necessarily have to prove something at the moment, and also lives on the other side of the country. Uh, and then from there, you just have players who drop out, and suddenly it becomes a pretty cool regional, but pretty different than what we first thought. Justin, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's a couple of things to take away from this. The first thing is like at Riptide and at Low Tide City, there were more dropouts for top players than we've seen in the past, and that's
Hmm.
also like with what Anoke said, uh, in part due to the uncertainty of things, of variants, of living with people who are immunocompromised or and not wanting to potentially cause harm. It's we've seen. I actually don't think we've seen something at SmashCon yet, but I would be shocked if we didn't. But every single one of these majors has had a case of COVID, even if everyone has been vaccinated or had negative tests prior to the event. It's inevitable with the amount of people who are there, I think. And it's also worth noting with this instability that for a lot of these top melee players, there is one thing that is stable, and that is streaming. And a lot of the top melee players who dropped or didn't even intend on going in the first place streamed SmashCon watch parties or streamed top 8 and watched along with the chat because that's a stable way to continue making income and without having to put anyone at risk or having to place well at an event where it's uncertain who's going to be there. Another thing that's of note, and I'm not blaming this specific event as a reason for people dropping out. I think it's just something that ended up happening as a result. It might have affected things, but there was the Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl crew battle between the Melee and Ultimate players, which happened. I may be completely wrong with this, and feel free to call me out if I am. I believe Hungrybox was actually at Super Smash Con in the hotel and played his crew battle from there. A bunch of the Ultimate players, I know, I'm pretty sure DeBuzz was one of them, played the Ultimate crew battle from the hotel room, and all of these players would pay $2,000 to just play in this crew battle. If I'm not mistaken, as well, $2,000 was more than the first place prize for Super Smash Con. So it's like if you're choosing between staying home, getting money for streaming for a couple of days, and just playing Nickelodeon, or traveling to a tournament, potentially risking COVID, having to play for 3 days, pay for a hotel room, pay for transport, and play for an extended period of time for less money. It's like if Mango and Zane aren't there, and if there isn't that much of a pot bonus, it's like there's a pretty clear choice if you're a top player, I think. With that in mind, I do think that the Genesis level events, the Big House, the Super Majors, and Smash Summit, obviously. I mean, Smash Summit is like its own behemoth at this point. But I believe that Super Majors and not just the Riptide is like I think Riptide's like right underneath the Super Major tier, but I think for like Super Majors, I think those will be pretty safe in terms of seeing top player retention and not seeing as many dropouts. And also as we figure out what's going on with the future of COVID and how stable things look, I believe that these sort of events will also have less dropouts and less DQs because a lot of the players who ended up dropping out and DQing, not all of them are like full-time streamers or anything like that.
Hmm.
Some people have other commitments and other things that come up, and it's like as everyone drops, it will snowball, like you said before. It's just as things become more certain, less snowbally occurrences like this will happen, I think. So
Yeah,
that's my take.
I think we've seen this before, even before COVID. Was we saw the idea of top players choosing to not go to an event to stream, and I think that was definitely something where before we had like a complete stop to in-person tournaments. It was like a thread, but we were kind of like never expected it to really spiral out of control. But yeah, we have had like 18 months plus of people being in their houses, and because of that, if you are a top player, a lot of people probably grew their streams. And it's the type of thing where in an uncertain time, that is a certain thing to do. It's both safer than traveling, and like you said, DarkGenex have probably made more money for those people. We are seeing a lot of tournaments that are not able to get huge pop bonuses for one reason or another, and you look at like SmashCon, where the biggest prize pool there was for Nickelodeon, for All Stars Brawl, which is given by the developer, and obviously Nintendo's not going to be doing that for Melee or Ultimate anytime soon. So for a lot of people, it makes more financial sense to stay where they are and grow their stream. But yeah, I'm willing to. So you guys mentioned Genesis, and I think that Genesis, I'm not worried about in terms of top players showing up. The one that's kind of going to be the make or break to me is main stage. Main stage, we're going to see it coming up. It's I believe the actually don't know if it's the middle or the end of November, but it's coming
I
up in
think it's mid.
November. It's mid. Wow,
I will check this right now
you
because I
called
have.
main stage
I'm
mid.
I'm fairly I'm fairly
Oh
sure
no,
it's
no, no! Of course not.
in the middle of November because
Yeah,
I
no.
won't be able to go because it's my honeymoon or my delayed honeymoon that
All
week.
right, flex. Um, but yeah, with main stage,
I'm married, by the way.
we're gonna see 6 slots for Smash Summit, Smash Summit 12, and I think that that could be something to really like kick a lot of top players and like make them actually go to events. Because right now, as it stands, if you are entering like a Smash Con, really, you don't have a ton to gain other than the whatever money and prestige come with it. And like we said, it's not as much money as it would be streaming. In terms of prestige, in a year with presumably without a top 100 rank, what does winning one of these events mean to a lot of people? So yeah, it is something that's kind of weird, but what we will have, we're going to be seeing some top level play at Smash World Tour. So we mentioned someone like Leffen, who was signed up for SmashCon Fall Fest and obviously not able to attend. We're going to talk about the European event for Smash World Tour. So we actually do have Leffen sign up for this. Would be the first in-person turn that we'd see him at probably since Smash Summit 9 all the way in February 2020. So, we talked about Smash World Tour a few times on this show before. This is the circuit thrown by the Smash World Tour people. Obviously, a lot of people would know them for their work on stuff like SmashCon. Um, a lot of the people who work on that also VGBC, such as Gimmer and such. Um, so this is a Melee and Ultimate kind of circuit that will eventually lead to a finals. And I think all the events that we've seen so far, we've seen the Central American one and we've seen some Ultimate ones. They've all been pretty cool, but the ones that I'm excited for most are the ones that are coming up in the next few weeks. So this is going to be, this weekend that we're coming up on. It's going to be both the North American West and the European. And then the weekend after that, we're going to see the North American East. So I think both of those are going to be really interesting. But before we get into the juggernaut that's going to be North American West, let's talk about Europe. Um, and Edwin, I know that you are a big European head. I know you had your planned honeymoon supposed to be there, and then COVID happened. Um,
Mhm.
Probably something I didn't have to bring up. That sounds very sad. But let's talk about the 16 players who we're going to see here because this is a really cool. We did get a chance to talk about these earlier, I believe, when they got revealed. But it's a really cool mix of people who are up and comers in the COVID era, and people who are like mainstays throughout Europe's rich Smash history. So, do you have anything particular that you wanna say to about this?
Yeah, I want to bring up a really interesting development in the UK, which is that for the first time, I think in recent memory, I checked this with Okamede, and he said that he wasn't sure, but he thinks that this might be true. That this is the first year where, if this holds up for another 2 months, it'll be the first time that somebody in the region has ever held a positive record in a year over Professor Pro. Right
Wow.
now, Frenzy, after years of getting kicked around and put and basically imprinted on the back of Professor Pro's hand, he is up 7-6 against him this year. So depending on how things turn out at Smash World Tour,
And this is
depending
all
on
in
how
person, correct?
yeah, yeah, Frenzy even in person, he is beating Prof. Like
Impressive
he's
stuff.
beating Prof and going back and forth. And that is something where if you've been following UK Melee for a while, there have been great players that just run into Prof and get obliterated. And even when Frenzy first started taking sets, it was like he would take a set and then Prof would win another 20. or like he'd take 2 sets and then Prof would win like another 30. It was a story of Sisyphus if there's ever been one in Melee. And like this year Frenzy's really taken a step forward as far as his head to head with Prof has gone. And like this could be his chance to actually like surpass him in the UK. So I think a showdown between these two and Frenzy against everyone else in the European field could be really thrilling and provide a great opportunity for him to like finally put it all together at like the biggest event.
Um, yeah, yeah, I think that so this is an event that if you caught me on Toph stream talking about it, we talked about who we thought might be like the 8 players who are going to make it because along with North America, both East and West, Europe also does get 8 qualifiers for this. So 8 people from this event, top 8 placings, will be going to the finals, which are just announced in December, which should be super cool. I think that 8 players from Europe gives like such a wide range of both like notoriety and just like skill. I think we're gonna see a lot of people who have been grinding pretty hard recently who are going to like really make their name at an event like this. Um, and I think, hmm, do I dare? I think we're gonna leak some pools. Do
Oh,
do I dare?
let us in.
We have some pools for the European events that are going to go live pretty soon. We are a pretty small stream. We're kind of small potatoes in all this whole thing, so I don't think there's any reason for us not to leak them. But yeah, here let me read out the pools, and then we can kind of talk about them. There's a lot to like talk about here because I think there's some really cool ones, but maybe we can just kind of point out some interesting matches and then give an idea of who we think might end up qualifying. So the first pool is going to be Leffen, Ja Raiden, Kinzo, and Raul. And I just want to say that these pools are, as they stand right now, um, this is a pretty much going to be the final thing. I wouldn't be surprised if anything did change. So I don't want to make it sound like these are 100% what's going to be the final pools, but I believe this should be going live pretty soon. Um, so if not, hey, this might even go live by the end of the episode, so we might not even be leaking that much. But so first pool is going to be Ja Raiden, Leffen, Kinzo, Raul, which should be pretty cool. Second pool, we're going to see Triff, Nikki, Meaty, and Max. Um, Frenzy, Ice, Skullbro, and Sharp. Skullbro and Sharp, 2 late additions to the European
That's a
qualifier.
wild. Can you repeat that pool again? That is a
Frenzy,
crazy stacked pool.
Ice,
Frenzy.
Skullbro. If people don't know, he is the Dutch Dr. Mario player, and then Sharp, who just narrowly missed the same finale. He is a Swedish Peach player who I
Sharp
think
uses they them pronouns.
they are a Swedish Peach player who in the melee stats circle I believe is very well like. Personally, I like them a lot. So it'll be very cool to see them. And then Pool Z, speaking of Swedes, we got Pipsqueak, Professor Pro, dude, crazy. We got Rix and Maye.
These pools are so stacked. Oh my god.
Europe's so
I
good.
it's so hard to look at these and make any judgment call on what's gonna happen. This is it's pretty impossible. So
Well, I mean, I think we can say that
Leffen's gonna
Leffen will
make it
win
out
the event
first.
and
I
and
think the
finish first.
storyline, yeah, the storyline is like, can anyone take down Leffen? Because like, I think it's a no-brainer that he's gonna qualify, but it's like all of these European grinders, like, is anyone gonna be able to take down like the big boss
Can
in the
anyone
finals?
scratch the big boss? The big boss hasn't lost any health points, or he didn't lose any health points the
well,
last time they fought.
he
Health points,
he lost some
HP, health points.
actual health points in real life.
Yeah, in
If
real
you
life.
looked at his Twitter, he doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
doing the best right now. I think he's talking about how he's constantly dizzy and he's got like headaches all the time. So I don't really know what's going on with that. I do wish the best for Leffen. It seems like there's some like Robert Johnson esque mythology where he like met the devil at a crossroads and like sold his soul to be good at melee, and in return, like every time he was about to be the best player in the world, something happened, be it deportation or global pandemic or Dragon Ball Fighters, whatever it might be. I feel like Leffen's ascent to like the number one player role has always been so close, and yet we've always seen something to come up in the way. So maybe just right on time. This is the weird dizziness spell to come and uh, rip the first place in the world right out of his grasp. But in terms of first place in this tournament, yeah, I think it's hard to I think it's really hard to say that anyone will take it over him. As good as we've seen this field play. I mean, last time we saw Leffen really, really play was Poland Coliseum, and he won without dropping a game. Uh, like even worst case scenario, I don't think I can see Leffen losing 2 sets and not getting first here. Maybe he drops a set to someone, but the the idea of him losing 2 sets, I think, is pretty crazy.
It
And
would
as
be
stacked as the
wild.
pools are, I don't think we're going to see it. But I guess we can talk about some of the players who might be at that level because we do have a good deal of players who I think maybe could scare him. Maybe not someone who's favored over him, but we have someone like Pipsqueak, who I think is amazing and has done very well versus Box Leffen. Triff, obviously not the scariest versus Leffen, but very scary in terms of just overall matchup spread. And then you've got like some old favorites like Professor Pro. You've got Ice. Got Frenzy, as you mentioned, an up and comer. I believe Frenzy also took a set off of Box Leffen. Um, I mean, the fact that we have to like mention Box Leffen sets kind of shows
Right.
you how good Leffen is. But I I think the race for number two here seems pretty stacked. DarkGenex, what are your thoughts on the talent pool that we have here? Like, how do you view these players?
I think that there are a bunch of people. I mean, I'm not as fluent with the European scene, but I've definitely seen a couple of their events and like watched along as for instance, players like Pipsqueak have been performing really, really well. The aforementioned Frenzy, Triff, etc. I do think that in terms of like Leffen winning the event, probably taking it, maybe drops a game or two here, maybe a scare, but I think I agree with what's been said before. I don't see anyone taking 2 sets off of him. I do think the talent pool is really deep, and I don't think that like the top 8 seeds of the event being like Leffen, Jaw, Triff, Nikki, Frenzy, Ice, Pipsqueak, Professor Pro. I think that there is a world where like some of these top 8 seeds don't make it, and some of
For
like the
sure.
hungry
Yeah.
up and comers take one of them down. Like for example, like I was just like I'm kind of cheating. I'm looking at like Jariden's Smash Out, and I can see that he's recently lost, or at least on the first page, has lost sets to both Kinso and Raul. So even in pools, like who knows what's going to happen out of this like round seeding. I
Mm,
know that another name that I recognize that comes out is Max, the I think
Yeah.
UK Sheik,
yeah,
who's like
UK. Yep.
basically UK Ben, basically like net play grinder, young and beating basically everyone.
goes
And
by first name.
yeah, so I think I can see Max doing really well too, even if he is last seed of his pool. Like, I would not be surprised to see an upset out of him.
Yeah,
So
I want to mention with Max especially. I think, and obviously this happened after a long stretch of mostly inactivity. I was really impressed by Max at Camp Coney. I think for eliminating Sechi from the event. Even if Sechi hadn't been active for a while, like that's a pretty tall order to take down one of like the one of like the best and one of the best in the country. I think. I think I think that guy is really solid.
Yeah, no matter what
Sure.
current state you think Sechi is in,
Hmm.
because I know that Sechi's not as well prepared as they've been before, but he's still a good player, no matter how uh recently he's been like grinding. He's still really good, and you can't take that away from Max because that is a very good win for Max. Yeah, I mean, we talk about Max's pool. I think this one's super interesting. So we have Triff and Nikki as the top 2 seeds, and I think those are people who Americans or like the general melee scene are pretty knowledgeable
Hmm.
about. Nikki obviously less so than Triff, but even then, Nikki has come to America. Nikki's done well. I believe beat Albert and
Hmm.
beat Boyd. Like come to America and have really good wins and ended up getting ranked top 100. Triff obviously had that span where he was like beating any Fox player who was not like top five. Ended up reverse 3-0ing Zane, like just incredible results. So I don't think Triff is someone who needs to be explained. But we've got two killers right here. You already mentioned Max, and then we have Meaty. I don't know if a lot of people know Meaty. He's definitely someone who I started to be aware of before the pandemic started, just from like some local results. I knew him as this like this dark horse Martha I like knew nothing about, but I would just see really good results. And then throughout the same circuit, throughout the Paulon series, we've seen a lot of incredible results from Meaty, and has really placed himself in the contention for possibly the best Marth in Europe. You know, up there with Maye or McKenzie, which is pretty crazy to see from someone who is like would be pretty unknown before the pandemic. So I think that this is a scary pool. You know, you have like the RPS of Marth versus Fox. You have Sheik versus Marth, and then Fox versus Sheik. You have all that happening. So it's pretty really, it's a tough call to see who's going to make it out in winners and who's going to make it out in losers.
I think
Uh,
based on that pool at least, one thing that you'll notice going through some of Meaty's like results over the years that he did pretty well. He did pretty well like in the early summer and like late spring and kind of like around like June or so.
it's getting to be
He
fall.
y- yeah, I think
He doesn't
I,
do
I think
well
he
in the
was
cold.
yeah, I guess. But he was really good against Falco. He had like taken sets from Timmy and Frenzy before. I know that Frenzy has dropped like sets to him before. He seems really good against Spaceys just like in general. The last 2 months Meaty's been slumping a little bit, but I still would see him as very much in contention for best Marth in Europe. And I think that and I'm actually kind of interested to see how him and Max would do against each other, and if Meaty can shock Nikki by any chance. I think Triv is a bit of a tall order though. That guy is just like so. He's just like a like when I see Triff play like even someone like Frenzy, right? The moment Triff gets a lead and he's up like 1-0 in a set and he starts like floating like above right platform or something and like you know that the game's not going to end for like another 3 like Triff with the lead in a set is just like so daunting and he hits so hard. I think that guy is like so tough to beat for
The
I
even the
can
mid
say
classic that
level.
though,
we've seen. Yeah, go
so
on, Justin.
I was gonna say, just looking at some data at Super Bowl Online, they went Game 5 median Triff, so
Mhm.
might not be as tall of an order as we're saying.
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to say because we have seen the Triff Classic a lot. Is he'll make his way to grand finals or winners finals or whatever, and then you'll see someone on the other side of the bracket who is like playing the hottest they've ever played. Like literally, like how can anyone lose? Like how can anyone beat this? How can this guy lose to anyone? And then it'll be like 3-1 Triff. It's like we've seen that so many times. So many times have I remember Edwin and I watched. I think this was when we were at Pounds 2019. We watched a set that they had between Triff and Ice, and we were like so confident. We were like, yeah, Ice could take this. Ice is so good, and it was just like 3-1, 3-1 or something. Whatever it was, Triff. Uh, I don't know if it's a Peach thing. I don't know if it's a player thing. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it's very easy to look at something like a projected match and feel like it could be very scary. And then when you look at what actually happens, like I do think that he's a little harder to upset than he might seem on paper. Um, so this, I don't know. I mean, none of these pools, even the one we talked about with Levin, I don't think any of these pools are cut out. So Triff, as good as he is, I don't think that any of this is necessarily going to sweep the pool. But as far as it's concerned, he probably has one of the better chances at doing so. Um, I want to talk about we talked about Meaty as possibly the best Marth in Europe. I want to mention a pool that has another Marth in it. Maye from France. We've seen him for 15 years. I don't know. I really don't know how long it's been,
He's
but
been around
it's
forever.
been a while. Um, someone who has not really made it to America a ton. I think that he might have gone to what, like a Gommel. So we definitely seen him at North American events. Um, but he is in a pool with 3 Fox players, which normally could be a pretty juicy pool for any Marth player. But when you look at it, it's Pipsqueak, Professor Pro, and Rix, the German Fox player. And it's hard for me to say that this is like a very good pool for Maye. And that's not me saying that he's bad. It's just me saying that all of these Fox players I think are so good. Justin, as a Fox player yourself, a top 64 at LACS, top 16 at SmashCon. You obviously have the credentials to speak on these players. Have you seen these players play? Do you have any thoughts on their play styles and how they might do?
I think that Pips. Okay, so I haven't seen too much of Ricks in general, but from what I've seen of at least Pipsqueak against Marth and Professor Pro against Marth, I think both of them are pretty like calculated in terms of their play. Um, a lot of the time, the classic Fox mistake is just like overcommitting a lot and then being scared after being punished afterward, just to break it down in the most like general term. And I feel like both of them have very good control over their character and stage positioning to the point where I don't think that they're prone to be upset by like strong Marth players in the sense that other like not to say that either of them are bottom top 100 level or anything like that, but like lower level foxes would be more prone to those kinds of upsets. So I think that I'm fairly confident in seeing the Foxes persevere, but that might just be my Fox bias here.
Well, I think we're talking a lot about Fox. I don't think Pipsqueak will go Fox against Maya. Pipsqueak, if you've been following that guy on Twitter or watching any of his streams, if you've talked to him about this matchup a lot, he loves playing Falcon against Marth. I think we're going to see the Falcon come out. I
It'd be
think he'll
fun.
have it. Yeah.
We I believe we saw that against Meaty at forget which same event it was, but I think we saw it at a recent same event. Yeah, I mean he's always been the type to like do well in Fox versus Marth. I don't think that he's a player who like has a mental block in it, which is funny
Yeah,
because
I think he just wants to go Falcon.
if you look at his Twitter, it was Pikachu, and then it was Sheik, now it's Falcon, and I think all of those, he is a player who obviously has shown great improvement in the past year or two. And because of that, he's able to dedicate himself to these changes. It's not just like this kind of goofy character, counter
Hmm.
pick. He does seem to actually, as good as he is in Foxmarth, it does seem like he actually does want to play these. So if he puts his mind to going Falcon, uh, I think, yeah. I mean, I'm not about to bet on Maye versus Pipsqueak's Falcon just because what I've seen from his dedication to the game and what I've seen from his Falcon versus Marth in general, seem to be pretty strong. So that would be
I
something really interesting to see.
I will say for whatever it's worth, they did have a set back in May where Maya won 3-2 against Pips Falcon, but I think Pips Falcon like today in October, and I think like heading into this kind of I think it's a bit of a different beast than it was maybe in May when he was just trying it out
Yeah,
because he didn't like the matchup.
something to look out for. Well, we got a pretty stacked bracket here. We talked about a few of these pools. We got another really stacked bracket to talk about in a little bit. We obviously got to talk about the North American West bracket that we're going to see. Before we get to that, let's talk about the what we're going to see qualify. So let's make some predictions. We see 8 players qualify. We got 3 of us here. We'll each do 2, and then we'll each we'll each do 2, except for okay. We'll each do 3, except for Edwin, who does 2. I don't know why you're the
Sure.
odd man out. All right, so DarkGenex, do you want to go first? Do you want to select a player who you think is going to make it?
Okay, so this might be a bit of a stretch, but I think that Leffen has a fairly good shot at making it.
Hmm.
Just
It's
I don't know,
just
maybe it's
crazy
Alert the
tough.
Fox
press.
bias. Yeah. So I think Leffen's got a good shot, and I'm not gonna pick too crazy. Like, okay, my crazy pick, I think Kinso's gonna make it.
No, that was
Ooh, what?
Yeah,
all right.
I
Okay.
think he's
Never
good.
mind. I'm taking We're doing. You don't get all your picks at once. You picked Leffen. My pick.
Oh
I think
shoot! I thought we were
Kinzo's gonna
doing
make
three.
it.
Sorry, I thought we were doing. I was doing my three, and then you're doing your three.
No,
Okay,
I
my
got
bad.
mad that
My
you
bad.
took Kinzo from me, so we're taking it from you. We're gonna do it.
Okay,
We're gonna do it rounds. So you picked
that's
Leffen.
fine.
I think Kinzo is gonna make it. He's super good. He's ninth seed here. His pool we talked about. Ja Raiden. I think Ja Raiden's kind of like the it's like the Luigi problem. You know, it's like the Swiss version of Eddie Mexico, where super good in general, but if you put him against people who he plays very often, it gets a little scary. And I think Raul and Kinzo and obviously Leffen are really hard draws for Jiraiya.
I agree.
Uh,
It's a tough pool
so,
for him.
and the difference between coming out in winners and coming out in losers is pretty huge in an event like this. So I think Kinzo is a really good opportunity. Anok,
I'm gonna go with a really boring pick and go with Triff. I think outside of Leffen, the only person at this event I would say who has like a solid chance of scaring Triff is Prof. I think he's got it in the bag over literally everyone else at this event. I would have said solo battle maybe like a year ago would have been scary, or a year and a half ago, but we saw what Triff's Fox,
yeah,
we saw how Triff's Fox beat him pretty handily, and we haven't seen much of. And solo battle's just kind of been up and down for a lot of the
yeah.
year.
Without
So
solo battle
Triff's
at
the
this
pick.
event, it's kind of without solo battle, without Sechi, it seems like Triff
Hmm.
kind of gets to avoid some of his biggest bracket demons of the past.
Oh right,
Justin,
solo battle's not going here. Forgot.
Justin, you got another one for us?
All right, I'll pick Pip. Overall, pretty consistent, huge grinder. We just spoke about his Falcon against Marth and that leveling up. So if even if that was potentially a problem matchup in the past, I could see it not being as much of one now. I think Pip. I mean, he's the person to his pool as well, so I think Pip's a pretty safe pick, and I will do that as a safe pick, so I don't have my talking rights taken away from me.
Yeah, watch yourself. I'm gonna go with another German. You know, I mentioned Kinzo. I'm gonna go with Ice. Ice is someone who's always been kind of a gatekeeper in Europe, especially in the past few years, as someone who would kind of drop off, and then it's like, how good is Ice? Is Ice even top 100 anymore? Then Ice would come back and be incredibly good. Um, you know, we saw him do very well at Genesis 7. We saw him drop some sets to people at Saving Mr. Lombardi too, but still had some good sets. Still took a set off of West Balls there, I think. And his role in Europe has, even though he's like been kind of off and on when it comes to attending stuff, whatever he does, he's still really good, and he is that the difference between the players who we see up and coming and the players who have always been there. So not sure if we're going to see him get incredibly far, but in my mind, I think he's somewhat of a lock for the top 8 position. So I'm gonna pick a fellow German. I'm gonna add another German to my roster. I'm gonna say Kinzo and Ice make it. Edwin, who you got?
Oh
Are you gonna pick a Marth?
no, I'm stuck between two options, and they're the options that I introduced at the start of talking about Smash World Tour in Europe. Uh, you know, I think I'm gonna go with I think I'm gonna go with Frenzy. I think this is the year that he finally takes the throne in the UK. I think he'll qualify through winners.
That
Justin?
sounds fair. Yeah, Prof,
Yep,
or Frenzy, incredibly good. Sorry, I was trying to.
trying to go a little fast and
Yeah, I
pick
jumped the
Prof.
gun. Justin, what do you
Yeah,
think?
you can have Prof. I mean, I do think Prof is going to qualify, but I'll pick Ice. Or wait, you pick. Wait, Ice
I
is already
picked
been.
Ice.
You already picked Ice.
Or you guys are even now.
Okay. Um,
Or I guess you're odd since you're
I
picking.
think. Hmm. It's hard because I mean, out of the field, I think that Nikki has a really good chance of making it, but I do like the pool is scary.
Yeah,
Like
it's
there's
a
a
tough
lot of
pull.
killers in that pool.
Hmm.
I think Nikki will pull through, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Nikki.
All
Just
right, how about I give you Prof and I'll take Nikki. I'll have all 3 Germans.
sure, go for it. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'll talk about Nikki since I picked him, I guess. Nikki's a very strong player. His pool seems very scary, but I do think that like I talked about the RPS of like, Meaty's best chance to get a win in that pool probably would be Nikki. But also Max being in the same pool as Meaty would be scary. And I don't think that Max is particularly scary for Nikki. So I think how it might end up working out. as the pool works out. Even if Nikki does drop a set to Meaty or something, I still feel pretty confident that he'll be able to make it out through tiebreakers in winners. And then, yeah, from there, I mean, obviously we talk about having that head start in winners is very powerful, but he's also a player who, despite the fact that we've seen this weird puff and this weird Icy's love from him on Twitter, his Fox is very good and it's very smart. And I think the way that he plays a lot of these matchups are very disciplined, is very disciplined. And even if we're not going to see him against like Puff, something where I think that he thrives in, I think that a lot of these matchups he's just like very solid in. He's not one of those Foxes who I think that has like a huge deficiency in certain matchups. And in a spread of players like this, I think that that could take him pretty far.
Sure.
Well,
I do
I'm
want to say
pretty
Nikki's
happy.
ices are cracked.
Yes.
At one of the last shines, he money matched Fable for a Twitter follow, and the winner of the match gets a Twitter follow. He decided to go Ice Climbers, and he kind of obliterated Fable. So that is one of my first and
Damn.
only interactions with him in real life, and I can say firsthand his ices are actually really, really good.
I'm very interested to see if we actually do see the ICs. I think that his ICs could be very funny and possibly, I'm not sure if his pool will really, if he's better off going ICs against anyone in his pool or if he will bracket. But I think it'd be fun to see. Yeah, but so that's basically it for Smash World Tour Europe. It's really exciting event. This is the first European event that we've seen in person for a lot of these players. Even though we've seen some events in person for UK, um, a lot of these regions have not been able to have big events that draw out big players. So being able to see a lot of these players in person for the first time since I don't know Valhalla 3 or whatever, would be very cool. So I'm very excited for this. And I'm also very excited for the return of not only top players such as Leffen, Triff, etc., etc. I'm excited for the return of something that is possibly more near and dear to the heart of Smashers. And of course, I'm talking about the Edwin Budding Stock Exchange.
All right, so it's been a while since we've done this. We just, you know what? I really wish we had a good excuse for it. I just haven't really planned it. We've had one-on-one interviews, had an opportunity to run the stock exchange. But in case this is your first time tuning in, it's basically like it's like a mini game show that we run, where the other two contestants on the show, or sometimes even three contestants, go back and forth on a variety of topics. So with that said, why don't we jump into our first segment called buy or sell. So in this segment, I name two things, right? Two things in the Melee community, or two people, two entities, or whatever. And you have to buy one and you have to sell the other one. So because this weed is at home, I'm going to have the first
On home court advantage.
yeah, because wheat has home court advantage. Justin, you're gonna lead this segment, okay? And you
Awesome.
got 30 seconds to answer the first question.
Sure.
Buy or sell, JFlex or Dreffen?
My New Jersey heart tells me to buy Mr. Flex, but selling Dreffen is crazy. Like, wow, this is hard. Okay, I'll say this. Dreffen stock is very good. Extremely good player,
You got
and
5
always has
seconds.
been. Okay, buy JFlex, sell Dreffen, JFlex stock to the moon. Okay.
All right, wheat.
Yeah, I mean, JFlex performances recently has been someone who is like a top 70 player, which is something that we really haven't seen from JFlex ever. Even though he made top 100 at some point, I think this is the best he's ever played. That being said, I literally don't think Dreffenstock will ever go down. The only time he'll ever go down is if he's projected to play a 16-year-old Fox in bracket. But other than that, I think that Dreffen will literally be 60 years old and still be able to make top 32 at majors. And for that reason, I find it really impossible to sell Dreffen. So I will buy Dreffen, sell JFlex.
All right, for the second part of the segment, wheat is going to be answering the question. So wheat, buy or sell, Flash or Jmook?
Okay. I mean, this is kind of like saying if I'm buying Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, because I'm not sure if I really expect either one to go out to events often enough for this to matter. But I'll buy Flash. I mean, our very good dear friend Logan called Flash better than Ginger, and I do think that while J Mook is really good in Sheik's bad matchups, I do think that the way that I see Flash play is like a really great understanding of the game, and I think that if he were to be dropped in like a random major top eight, I think he would thrive more. And also, I have not seen Giphy cats of J Mook beating up PPMD.
So you're buying Flash, selling Jmook.
I'm buying Flash, selling J Mook. I have not seen J Mook beat up PPMD in a
Got
Giphy
it.
cat.
All right, DarkGenex.
I have seen Jmook beat up IBDW in a Giphy Cat, and might be my tri-state bias, and also might be my knowledge of attempting to get Jmook to come to a nightclub. But I think that Jmook has a higher chance of entering a real life tournament than Flash does in the next 5 years. I have a lot of respect for both players, but in terms of attendance, I think that Jmook has a higher chance of doing things at events because he will attend them.
All
So,
right,
in that case, buy Jmook, sell Flash.
Now,
But
I
much
don't want
and
this.
respect to Mr.
This
Flash.
doesn't count. This is after the fact.
and
I'm
for
not.
the last,
When I say it's not going to count, I will say if Jmook really cared about attending events, he would not have left me on red with a very, very good opportunity to play. That's all I'm saying is that if he really wanted to attend events, maybe he wouldn't leave your boy Wheat on red.
all right, I'm glad that you got to share. All right, and for the last buy or sell question, Justin, SoCal in 2014 or SoCal right before the pandemic in 2020?
Wow, that is a hard question. Oh my. I think that SoCal right before the pandemic has had some of the strongest players come out of SoCal in probably like 8 to 10 years or so in terms of like national peak. SoCal has always been one of the best regions in the world. Some of the strongest players. I think the modern era's got it. I'm not gonna lie. Uh,
Right.
I'll give it
We
to yeah.
I agree with my friend here. Um, you look at 2014, and you have some of the best players around. You have Mango, S2J, Lucky, Fiction. You look at 2020, you have some of the best players in the world. Mango, S2J, Lucky, Fiction. But you also have someone by the name of Android Zero, aka the best player to ever grace this earth. And while I do think that the up and coming talent like Android Zero, Null, Nut, all very impressive for SoCal, we have to mention that in 2020, pre-pandemic, you had SFAT and you had
And
IBW.
IBDW.
So while you don't have people like Fly Amanita, who's from the 2014, I think that the addition of IBW, SFAT, plus S2J is better than he was in 2014. Fiction better than he was in 2014. I think that it's not crazy to say that 2020 has it.
all right. So we're gonna
Also,
run
West
an
Falls is more irrelevant in 2020.
we're
I
gonna
would sell
run
Westfall.
another. Yeah, we're gonna run a new segment on the stock exchange for its return. Brr, 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 brr. And this new segment is called What's It Worth? So I'm gonna name a stock in the scene, and you're gonna tell me, just give me a general potential rank range on what this stock is worth. Well, in this
Is
week,
there
it's
a
just
number like
players.
what is low and what is high? Like is there a lowest
Yeah,
and highest
yeah,
or
give
scale?
me like the range, like around where you see them,
Well,
in the
wait.
But like what's the scale? Like is it one
like
to
like
ten, one
one
to
like one to
100?
like 1 to 150.
Okay. 1 to 100. I not just
Yeah,
1 to 100.
one being like Zane or Mango right
I
now,
want
not
Oh, so
100.
like where they'd be on the MPGR.
Yes. God,
Okay,
why
okay,
didn't I
I
just
got you.
say? Why didn't I just
Yeah.
say that?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I
okay,
thought we
okay.
were
Now
getting
I
to a
get it. I
dollar
get it
amount.
now.
Sorry,
I thought
I'm
you were
rusty at
gonna say like
this.
J
You
Flex.
So
would have
I'd be
said
like
Zane, I've been like
$5,000.
150.
yeah, so we the
Yeah.
first question for what's it worth? What's it worth, Dr. Lobster?
68. Sorry, am I supposed to elaborate on this?
Yeah, you're supposed to
Dr.
elaborate.
Lobster, he's been my pick for like always a player who was not top 100, and then would just 1 year pop off and end up being in the 60s. And I think that this is kind of his year. He is someone who I believe he's in New Hampshire for school.
Yeah.
This is true, yeah.
Um, so in New England events, he does really well. And when he is back in, I think he's Long Island normally. If he's ever back in Long Island, I expect him to do well there. I think that his matchup spread is very good against the New England players, and I think that having the ability to punch up at that level and be very consistent against players in his in his echelon, that works really well for a player like him. I'll say 68. I'm not entirely sure if I know what we're doing here, but 68 is going to be my
All right,
number.
Justin.
I would give him like probably an 88, but that's more because I don't think that he's the kind of player who would be traveling to nationals. And not just discredit New England or anything, but I mean, I've spoken with Gene and Tom about this many times as well. New England internally right now, outside of its top three being Warmer, Calvar, and Dr. Lobster, is probably at the weakest it's ever been. And when Dr. Lobster does play out of region, like he has beaten Swooper a couple of times, but at the Trail Invitational lost to J-Flex amount of money. Definitely a player with a good matchup spread. Definitely a strong player, but not necessarily a player I could see in like the 60 range at the moment, at least. If he were to travel, I could see it, but I don't think he's going to travel. So that's why I'd probably say a player in like 80, like 80s to 90s on MPGR. So yeah,
All right, Justin. For the next, what's it worth? Asashi.
55. I think Asashi is I think that Asashi is really, really good. Like watching him play is like wild. He does like some like combo trees I have seen, literally never seen Falco's do that before. I've heard his Fox was cracked. Now on Falco, the guy's nuts. Uh, does really well in SoCal. He's not a player I would have expected to pop off this hard through net play results, and yet here he is, like just owning a lot of the players in SoCal where you wouldn't expect it in the past. Maybe I put him a little high, but I think Asashi's really good and
Take it
only
away,
is
Wheat.
up to go.
85. But next year, 54. No, I think Asashi is a really strong player. I mean, yeah, you talk about SoCal before the pandemic. We talked about that earlier. I think that he was not very well known to pop off, and then we see post pandemic, return SoCal, and he's doing really well. The issue that I think with SoCal is that like there's a lot of really strong players, and I think while you're able to make your mark by like getting wins on them, I think that there's only so far that you can go by being like mostly negative with players, which I imagine given enough sets he would be mostly negative with the top SoCal PR. So I'd put him around what like Curve or something got last year. So I'll say 85.
And for the last what's it worth segment, Wheat, tell me, what is no flux's worth?
I mean, it's really impossible to give like an energy to this guy. I would say square root of -1. I think that it's an imaginary number for no fluxes. It's like literally impossible for our minds to wrap ourselves around how this guy plays. Um, I mean, as it stands right now, what he got like third, fourth at SmashCon,
Third, yeah.
third. Wow. I'll give him the if he makes top 100 instead of like being too enigmatic to actually rank. Like if players can actually wrap their heads around him, I think that he'd be a great 100. Like I think that that's such a the story history of people to get 100. Him, Toussaint, Ken. Like I think he fits perfectly in that pantheon. So if people can like actually understand this enigma that is no fluxes, I think he'd be a very fun 100.
And Justin?
One, no fluxes is the greatest player to ever live. Okay, but I think that in terms of where he'd be on the MPGR, I'd agree with Weed. I was gonna say 99. I think that he is a player who results wise, has a very interesting matchup spread, can show up at the majors when needed, given the character, given the player, has the fear factor of Ganondorf, and also losing to CLM's greatest villain, the Twitter presence of a top 100 player, and he's gonna be there. 99.
All right.
Twitter presence would be like 10, but
Twitter presence is one easily.
it is
for
one. Yeah.
the last segment of the Edmund Budding Stock Exchange, familiar listeners will already recognize this. It's called Market Watch. It's kind of just like a grab bag of open-ended questions. So, Justin, with KoDoRiN as the invading West Coast player at this week's nightclub, which nightclub regular would you consider the scariest sleeper opponent for KoDoRiN?
Well, in terms of sleeper opponent, I think the obvious pick is Whiskers. It's Yoshi Marth. The guy's really good. He defeated the last West Coast invader, being Kalamazoo. With that in mind, I actually do think that if they play, KoDoRiN will beat Whiskers, but I think that Whiskers will. I think he can take a game. Um, in terms of sleeper picks, I think that Hoborg is someone to look out for. This might be a crazy one. That guy has been secretly really good versus Marth. I don't think they're seeded to play, and Hoborg would need to make multiple upsets to get there. But I think if they play, Hoborg could take a game too, even if that is a wild accusation. I think KoDoRiN is gonna beat everyone else 2 or 3-0 though. That's except for Aklo, but Aklo, like, that's gonna be a close set.
And you got the last word.
Uh, so when you say this, do you mean people who are entered or people who could like beat him in from Tri-State? I guess is my question.
I would say people who could beat him who are entering this nightclub.
Okay, so you're asking the TO of the nightclub, and then you're asking me. Man, I really don't know who's going. I'll make up some people. JoJo would do really well. Whiskers would do really well. Just Jason, I don't know if he's going, would do really well.
Jason is going. If you want to talk about it for like 5 minutes, we could talk about nightclub because we got some interesting results in
Yeah,
terms of who's
maybe if
there.
you win, maybe I'll let you win, so you can talk about the nightclub. But I'll answer this question. I will say KoDoRiN will lose to Wasabi.
He's
I
not
feel.
on the East Coast
I will say
anymore.
that he's going to lose to. Help
Do
me
you
out
want to
here,
look the
Justin.
players going? I can
Yeah,
give you a list of the players.
can you give me is
So,
B Bats going?
B-Bats is going.
I'll pick B Bats. I think that's all I need to hear. I'll pick B Bats.
All right.
So,
Well,
for viewers and also just for complete reference, the top 16 seeds of this week's nightclub as of right now are in order: KoDoRiN, Aklo, Jflex, Warmer, Wally, Just Jason, The Swooper, Mont Money, JoJo, Whiskers, B-Bats, Dimension, Heartstrings, Kanagar, Hoborg, and Kada. So
Wow. All people that could be very scary for KoDoRiN, but obviously none more than old Billy Bats himself.
all right. So this was a very interesting stock exchange. It was a great back and forth tug of war, but in the end, I have to give it to the special guest and the TO of the nightclub himself, DarkGenex. Congratulations, you have won the returning Edwin Budding stock exchange. You get a
what an
minute to
honor.
talk about whatever you want.
What an
Which
honor.
is the
So,
nightclub, which is why I threw. I
yep,
threw to give you
exactly.
time to talk about the
I
nightclub.
appreciate it. So I just want to talk about this week's nightclub specifically. It is the final event of the season, so the New York PR is going to be coming out pretty shortly afterward once it's made. It is the most stacked nightclub we have had since probably the first one. Both KoDoRiN and Aklo are going to be there, alongside all the other people in top 16 or top 16 seeds that I mentioned. A couple of heavy hitters that we've mentioned as well. Some of the up and comers who have been doing pretty well at nightclubs and also at tri-state events. Yokai Nels, who's recently beaten 404 Cray, Captain Smuckers, some other got I think top 64 at Low Tide City. Ja, who recently got off of a 5th or 4th place at the nightclub, beating Kada, and also has beaten Yokai Nels. The NorCal transplant Jubby is going to be there as well. Just overall, a lot of good players going to be at nightclub. So definitely check it out at TTV NYC Melee when it is live tomorrow. And we'll see who takes it between KoDoRiN or Aklo, or maybe one of the heavy hitters. Because KoDoRiN and Aklo did not play at Summit. They didn't play a set at Summit, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll hopefully get to see that.
If I can just say one other thing before we move on to World Tour. Uh, Justin, I love you. I respect your knowledge of the scene as much as people in Melee Stats. I love you as a member of the extended universe. You even love Hoburg. I think you're nuts for picking with Hoburg as your pick to KoDoRiN would I will be stunned if KoDoRiN loses to Luigi. I cannot see that happening. And you won the point on the last question because Wheat forgot that Wasabi was no longer.
Yeah, I mean I was kind of set up, but also let the record state that the show would
Calculator
have
Pro.
been better if Justin had his opportunity to talk about the nightclub. And I am not above, like I'm not so self-centered where I put myself above the good of the show. So while the record books might show that I lost this one, it's possible to look at this as more as a dub for the entire show and maybe the scene at large rather than an
Indeed.
L for Wheat.
I agree. I do have a question though, Mr. Edwin Budding. Who is your sleeper pick? If you can't pick Mr. Bats, Mr. Jamie Nino, or Mr. Luigi.
Honestly, I would have gone with either JoJo or Just Jason. I would have gone one of those two. And
Damn.
and if not one of those two, my third pick would have been Wally.
Mm-hmm.
I thought JoJo was too obvious for some reason. I think I like overthought it. Well,
I mean, Game 5 with Rishi recently, so.
very good player. Should have said it. I would have won. I'll remember this one. Edwin Bunny Stock Exchange will not be returning. Sorry, fans. Hope you like that. But one thing I think that fans will like is the North American West Smash World Tour event that we're going to see for Melee this week. We already mentioned the European qualifier and how stacked that is. I don't think it'd be crazy to say that we are looking at a more stacked event for North American West. Um, Obviously, anyone who has seen the announcement for this, couple things that come to mind: there's no Mango, there's no Axe. As we've seen for the last chance qualifier, there are going to be 8 slots there for the finals, so it's not the end of the world. It's possible that we could see some of the top players we were not able to see at the qualifier events there. So obviously, if you don't see anyone at this event or at the East Coast event or any other region, it doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be there. But yeah, I mean, I think that regardless of not having any Mango, regardless of not having any Axe, I think that what we have here is pretty cool. And with the addition of Plup as someone who, we've said this, right? He's moving. I I was not. It was very funny when I asked his manager about putting him in West Coast pools. I was not allowed to be told where he was moving to, but I was told it was okay to move him to West Coast pools. I'm pretty sure everyone knows at this point. But I will keep my word. I will not say where he's moving. Or if I did, I would just say the acronym out loud. But yeah, we got some really interesting
I
stuff
caught
here.
that. It was great.
I caught that.
I am a leaker at heart. I love to leak. I cannot stop from leaking, and I will leak for the second time this episode, possibly third, if you consider what a leak was. Um, I'm gonna read the pools out for here because we are actually gonna go live with these pools. It might not be today, it might be tomorrow. But at this point, yeah, this is pretty cool information. And I think that for something as stacked as this, it's gonna be something that's really cool to talk about in depth because the level of talent here could go really all different ways, depending on what pools they're in. So we mentioned Plup. So he is in a pool with Fat Goku, Captain Face Roll, and Billy Bo Peep, which that is a really interesting group right there. And the groups just don't stop getting interesting because we have Pool B is going to be SFAT, Fiction, Bobby Big Balls, and Ty, Arizona's Ty. S2J, Albert, Meds, and Ara, also Oregon's Peach player in Pool C. And Pool D is going to see, and we talked about KoDoRiN in terms of the nightclub. He's actually going to be at this event, which is super cool.
That's crazy.
Kalamazoo, Daki, and Rocky.
Oh my god, is that KoDoRiN? That's crazy.
Oh
What are you doing
my!
here? That's wild.
Wow. You should have. You should have.
What's up? What's up?
I feel like this is all set up. You're gonna pay him off to lose to Hoborg.
Oh no.
Hey,
All right. Well, KoDoRiN, jump on mic.
yeah, I decided to, visit, mostly for relatives, but thought I should also visit to the nightclub and also see what Justin's doing. I heard him say my name from my relative's place, and I just walked straight here instantly.
Now, I did just reveal your pool. This is the first time you heard this. I did not tell you players what your pool is. So
I can't hear them.
You can't hear them?
Yeah.
okay, this is good.
For some reason.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is perfect.
he unplugged the headphones by accident. Okay.
uh, by tuning into Waiting for Game, either from the viewer end or the guest end, you have an unfair advantage in Smash World Tour. You now know your pool.
I would have known anyways if I was watching from the stream.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if you watch melee stats content, you might get a little bit of a unfair advantage, and maybe that's a reason to tune in.
It could change as well.
Maybe.
It could change. I might change it just to spite you, but as it stands right now, KoDoRiN, you are a favorite to make top 8 here in the eyes of many. Well, how do you feel about your pool here?
Yeah, so how exactly does this work again? Like, is it like, is anybody eliminated from pools?
No, there's going to be 4 round robin pools of 4 players apiece. Top 2 players are going to make it into winners, and the bottom 2 players are going to make it out in losers. The top 8 players are the ones who end up getting spots to the world finals in
Uh,
December.
for those that make it winners, are they already considered in top 8, or they need to win one round to make it to
I
top
think you
8?
need to win 1 round to get top 8.
Okay. Alright. And so basically, second place is for seeding. Okay. Yeah, I feel okay about it. I know some of those players like KZ. I do not have a good tournament record over him, but I have played friendlies with him, and I don't think he's been super grinding as of late. That might change, but like when I played him last time, like a month or two ago, didn't look super sharp, and like I was like refining a lot on the Peach matchup. I mean, like you saw some changes I made versus Polish at Galent. I've been like cleaning up a lot about my Peach gameplay. Just as long as like I feel like I'm not playing too bad, I could do it. So it's a good like litmus test, I'd say. Like if I could beat Kazu, I think I'm pretty much on lock for top 8.
Yeah, and I think that I think you actually did. Have you dropped a set to Rocky before online? Is that
Uh,
correct?
I don't I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, despite that fact, I do think that the rest of your pool does seem pretty cut
Yeah,
out for you.
and Daki he will be a challenge, but I'm not too worried about. Like I'd say I'm pretty heavily favored against Rocky. Like I think my odds are making it out first are like I give myself like 70-80% chance, and the odds of me making it second is like 95% chance. It's like the fair odds I'd give.
I do
Cause
think
like
this is a
even
yeah, it's a pretty good pool for you.
yeah, like, cause like even if I were to lose twice somehow, like there's like also possibilities that like the other players can lose twice. You know, I don't exactly know how round robin works, but
Well, it goes to a bracket no matter what. So even if you get third, you still play on
yeah,
championship.
yeah. But what I'm saying is that even if I lose twice, like there might be other players that also happens to lose as well.
Mhm.
True,
So
yeah,
like
it might be a tiebreaker scenario. Well,
yeah, like it's
so you are the top seed of your pool here,
mhm.
and we talked about how this is a good pool for you. I'm gonna show
That
you.
I'd be
Oh
down to
wait,
talk about other pools as well.
yeah. How do you feel
You know,
about? Here, I'm gonna send a link to Justin, so hopefully he can show you.
Well,
Um,
KoDoRiN, this is actually really important, but how would you feel if say Keizu in your pool is replaced with Hoborg by any chance?
Hoborg? Oh, that's I've made Luigi players literally quit their main, maybe even quit the game. Like, but
this is,
ooh, if he
this
were
is
to
true.
reach to me, I might have to quit my main. I don't know. That's a tough draw for me.
I don't know, Edwin. You might have to reconsider a certain question on the Edwin Bunny Stock Exchange. We have to go back in time.
Maybe.
Give it a chair.
Uh, but yeah, KoDoRiN, how do you? I mean, this is an open question. Anyone can answer this, but how do you feel about the other top seeds? Because this is like a pretty. Your pool's pretty set, but I think that there could be some scary pools here. What do you think about the other ones that we have?
Captain Face Roll is definitely like the heavy sleeper. It's like it's either he could pop off really hard or he gets last in his pool.
It's a tough pool. It's you know, 2 Sheiks, which we have seen Plup do really well in the Sheik Ditto in times past, and we've also seen Captain Faceroll do well. So that's a tough one. And then both Fat Goku and Billy Bo Peep, I think, are people who have at times punched above their weight in terms of the Sheik matchup. So yeah, I think that like Plup has been continually for the past like year, 2 years, it's been something where you know how he's going to perform at the end of the bracket by how he does in the beginning. just like seeing his mental game, seeing how attuned he is to everything. And I think that this is kind of setting him up. Like if he is able to succeed in this pool, I think that his success in the rest of bracket will kind of be, it's all set up for success. But if he struggles here, that's a question that I have in terms of full bracket. I think that he's still good enough to make top eight and qualify, but definitely something where if I have like 2019 Plup in this pool, that is something that I get scared about.
I do
Right.
wonder what if he Sheik Ditto's face roll or if he goes Fox against him. We've
Or
seen
both.
Plup do that. Yeah, maybe even both.
I mean, it's worth noting that at Riptide he went Fox against Juice Box.
Yeah, he's had a lot of weird Fox sets where he went Fox versus Axe at Genesis 7 and ended up winning. He went Fox versus KoDoRiN.
And Pew Pew at Genesis.
Yeah, Pew Pew. Yeah, he went all Fox at Genesis, I believe. I think he ended up losing to Army as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had some like. It's hard to call his Fox stubborn just because of how good of a player he is, but he's definitely had some times where it's like I feel like maybe Hashik would do better, and he just commits to Fox. And sometimes we don't really see those results be his strongest. So
Yeah, I mean, I happened to rewatch the Plup versus Prince of Boot set. Like everybody knows the skill is there, but it's just that like he just randomly doesn't feel like winning at some point. And
Out of curiosity, where did you watch the Plup Prince of set, or did anything remind you of it?
yeah, it was by what's his channel called? MS.
MS? I don't know what it stands for.
Yeah, it
But
was like the
MS.
weirdest set ever played.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a good video.
I watched it the other day.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen that thumbnail recommended, but I can't say I've clicked on it.
But yeah, like everybody knows Plup will make it out pretty much. And then for face roll, I'd say like it's basically I think for him it's a huge test of mentality because everybody knows he has a skill to make it out, like in winners at least. But like we don't know what's going on with him. Like he has not entered a single SoCal local. Like you imagine in 2021, you go back in time in 2019, 2014, whatever, whenever face roll was active, you imagine saying that Santi would enter more locals than Captain Face Roll in 2021.
That's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy.
Mhm.
Like it's just crazy to me, but everybody knows he does have the skill. I mean, he did enter. Well, it's not confirmed fact, but not Plup entered the net play tourney and defeated some Marth, and apparently like forest socked him or something, or like it was not pretty. So like he did well in that tourney of all tourneys for some reason, despite his complaints about online. Like if he could do well there, then he could probably do well in offline sets as well. It's just nobody knows what's up with him, and like he kind of like gives excuses of not attending locals. It's like I don't know. Like everybody knows he's good. It's just will we not feel motivated to really give it his all, that kind of thing, or has he forgotten some stuff? That's something that I look forward to seeing most out of Pool A.
That would actually be wild if he had to play 3 Sheik Fox sets. That's brutal for a round.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
weirdly enough, like he could get into a rhythm. But like the thing is, for someone like Facer, like he could get into rhythm, right? Like maybe he plays really well in the first. I could see that weirdly working out in his favor. Or but like it goes back to what you're saying, like that. Like if the
it,
first set is ugly, like if the other two
it,
don't turn
yeah,
out well at all.
like definitely like the two foxes are like face rolls litmus tests, I'd say. Not to mention like I put face roll as like the main storyline, but like Fat Goku and Billy, they have their own storylines that is like a lot of question marks too. We don't know where they're at either. They haven't attended any majors, but we know they're good. So like they could even beat peak face roll. So it's like I don't know. All these guys are just really good too.
Yeah, Billy, we haven't seen at a lot of events. I think the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational was something that he was at, did really well, beat Axe
Mhm.
there, and then in person, one of the first wins that kind of gave us like a clear idea of how good he was. Obviously, the SJ win was there, but the Shroom win that he ended up getting
Mhm.
later on in the year, that was a pretty clear indication of his skill level, and I think that his skill versus Sheik could come into play here. So we
Mhm.
talk about face roll being someone who we have big questions mark because of the lack of attendance. There's someone who else who I think another SoCal player who has a lot of question marks, but we don't have the issue of lack of attendance. We see a lot of attendance, and this
Mm-hmm.
is Pool
Bird.
B Fiction. So
Shepard.
A bird.
Shep Bird,
Mm-hmm.
Shep Bird Lima. Uh, yeah, we have seen a lot of his Falco in terms of Verdugo West, and
Yes.
believe did we end up seeing? He wasn't at like a pizza time or anything, right?
He's only attended Verdugo's.
He just happens to attend like every Verdugo.
Well, yeah, because he like just lives right next door. So
Oh,
like,
perfect.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that's about
I
it.
mean, like the level of skill that we see at those Verdugos, it's pretty crazy to
Hmm.
see him succeed so well. I think
Yeah.
like I don't know if there's a player who he has not taken a set off of at a Verdugo. I know he's negative against
Yeah.
some people,
He's
but
he's he's taking a set off of everyone.
that's crazy. It's definitely something where he's very quiet during the net play season. I
I,
forget
I
who he lost to. He lost to someone at Nez Mod God
he
Championship or
lost
whatever.
to Man.
Man
Oh,
Ray, Man
Man
Ray.
Ray.
Man Ray.
Well, he lost to Mandarin recently. There was like a pre-Slippy event where he was entering a bunch and then he lost to someone and he
I
was just
think
like
he,
stopped entering.
I think he lost to Fat Goku, complained about it for a long time, and then quit.
But then he
Nice.
started entering with laserless Falco for a while and beat the
Yes.
third seed of his pool without shooting a laser. So
Was that when he beat?
Yes.
Are you referring to when he beat Bobby, or is this someone else he
Yes.
beat?
he
Okay,
beat
yeah,
Bobby
I
without
thought it was
shooting a single
Bobby.
laser.
Yeah, he came back from losers. He beat Bobby. I believe he made Bobby like rage quit out of a game with without shooting a single laser in the Ditto. Yeah, I mean his Falco it's something that I've been like trying to put into words because it's very interesting to me. But I don't think I'm smart enough to understand. It's a weird type of thing where it doesn't look pretty, but he's able to put people in really like good situations of pressure. I know that there was there's a set where he was playing Nut and he was down 3 stocks to 1 in Sheik Falco, and I think that if you were to see that situation, especially against someone who recently switched to Falco, it'd be a good idea to bet on the Sheik. But for some reason, I was like,
Mhm.
I think Fiction's gonna win this,
Yeah,
and
you can't ever count him out.
he came back. He ended up taking that game. I think he took the entire set. KoDoRiN, as someone who has played his Falco,
Yes.
what's your read on his type of Falco, especially against other Falcos that you've played? How would you compare
He's an incomplete Falco. Like he's
him?
someone that's very clearly, in my opinion, the second best Falco right now. But what holds him back from actually being the second best Falco is like his like matchups very specific knowledge and like the little spots that you can only get from like being a Falco main. And
Mhm.
Falco is very punishing that if you don't know this very specific spot, you die. You just die. And I think this pool is like the very obvious storyline is Fiction's Falco ready? Is it ready to be in the big major main stage? Like, we haven't seen Fiction at a major, and you know, trying out your new Spacey in the first big major. You're telling me there's not going to be some side Bs off stage. You're telling me that he's not going to miss a ledge dash last stock, or do like terrible double lasers or side B from the ledge and get brutally destroyed for it. Like, I know he's very capable of beating everyone in that group, but I think it's going to be the test to see like how complete is this Falco. Is it complete enough to make it out of this pool and maybe even get top 8?
This is a really good test for him. SFAT is someone who has not only been incredibly for such a long time, but he's also had like pretty good records against Falco. He's had
I,
upsets here and there.
I would say that SFAT, this is probably one of his hardest draws of of like the type of opponents he could get, because I could
Yeah.
easily see him lose to all of these people. But I guess like it's funny that I'm saying this Fox has the highest chance of all the people he could beat. It's Ty, because
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
uh he's just really good at the mark matchup, and Ty is not someone that's like very consistent with his punishes. So of all the simulations, I think SFAT is at least going to beat one person, and it's Ty. But he's dropped multiple sets in TMTs against Bobby, and I don't have any like he could also lose to Fiction as well if he could lose to Bobby. And it's usually when I see SFAT is playing like in his like off game C game ish. So like it kind of depends on what kind of SFAT shows up. The one that's like really prepared, eating broccolis right before his set, or like he's playing a C game and I'm seeing him get like double lasered by Bobby in Fiction and just being stuck and gets death comboed. And I see this Fox is just stuck in shield. So like I think this is a really hard draw for SFAT. So he needs to show up at like at minimum his B game.
It's a volatile pool in general because you mentioned SFAT. SFAT's someone who we've seen do really, really well on big stages, and we've
Mm-hmm.
seen him get upset. We look at another pool that has Rocky. Rocky's big break was beating SFAT at Shine.
Yeah.
So like we definitely see upsets at the hands of Falco in terms of like SFAT's big upsets before. But also Fiction, we talk about this is his first time putting Falco on like in a group of people outside of SoCal. Bobby is someone who is like the definition of a volatile player. The play style that he plays seems to when it works, and it's kind of hard to keep up. We did just see him lose to B Bats
Mm-hmm.
this past week at SmashCon Fall Fest. And Ty, I do think that Ty is a very good player, but this group of players, um, even though they're all spacies, I think that kind of a tough draw for a Marth of Ty's skill level. But that being said, it's still a Marth in a pool of three other spacies. So this is a pool that compared to the other ones, I think it could end up kind of all different ways.
Yeah, my read of Ty is that his peak is like getting out second in the pool. Like I could see him beating Fiction and Bobby. I don't really see him being SFAT even if it's like D game.
Yeah.
But yeah, even Bobby could just randomly pop off and get out second maybe or maybe even first. So it would be interesting. I think that one has the most volatility by far.
I think it's
Something
cool
that's
also just
sorry,
seeing
go
this
on,
kind of
Justin.
yeah, sorry about that. I think it's just kind of cool like seeing the kinds of pools where it's like anything can really happen. It's not really clear who's going to come out as the first seed. Anyone can lose to anyone else, and not to say anything about like any of the players' skills. It's just they're all just so good and all either have great matches with each other or have bad draws to each other. It's like who's playing better that day, and I think that it'll be good melee. Like whoever's watching that pool is gonna be in for a treat.
Mhm.
The last thing I want to say about this pool is that I don't know how Fiction's Falco will like impact his lifetime trend against SFAT because if you look historically at how those two do to each other, like versus each other across all eras, like SFAT has been a really big thorn in Fiction's side. Like even
That's
when
true.
Fiction was starting to do well at bigger regionals and come back to SoCal locals and grind a lot more in like late 2018 and 2019, when SFAT came to town, like he had Fiction's number like very solidly, and he would just keep beating him nonstop. And I'm
Yeah,
kind of interested to
true.
see if that dynamic changes at all now that Fiction is not only playing a new character, but actually playing a character with whose top level representatives have given SFAT like a bit, like even outside of Mango, like have given like are known to give SFAT trouble. So I wonder how that impacts like how their head to head will trend for now in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, if that trend keeps coming out, I don't see SFAT going lower than second then, because I could definitely see a bunch of backdoor shines, and that's more effective against Falco than it's against Fox. So, and some taunts.
Yeah, I mean, we saw SFAT do that to Mango in 2016, the
Mhm.
Shine
Yeah,
2016 into Clutch City Clash. So if he could do it to Mango, he could definitely do it to someone who hasn't played this character for more than like a year and a half or whatever.
2
Um,
years.
so definitely a pool that hey, I think all of these pools are going to be really awesome. But I think we mentioned the first two pools, pools A and B, I think are probably the most volatile. We mentioned your pool, KoDoRiN, but let's talk about Pool C.
We'll see.
Pool C is going to be S2J, Albert, Meds, and Ara. So that's a pretty cool group of people because I don't believe that we saw a lot of these players at majors yet. S2J was only at Low Tier City, or Low Tide City. I believe Albert
Mhm.
went to that one as well. But in terms of Meds and Ara, we have not seen them at in-person events. And Ara, we've really barely seen online. But when he was playing, they're doing really well. Had a set on Axe's Pikachu,
Mhm.
which online, what does that even mean? But like
It's something.
regardless, some okay results.
But also speaking about like sets on Axis Pikachu, I mean, and Meds has been showing up locally to all the AZ locals, and I think for the first time in a very long time has
Hmm.
been ranked #1 over Axe in region, has a very strong record against Axe, and has been doing really well, like just in the Arizona scene. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him making an upset on either SJ or Albert. I think his matchup spread's really good, and that he's been a very strong player. Even like his online results are fairly like the TMT standards he does very well in, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see if Meds were able to take out one of the top two seeds, if not both. Just someone who may be overlooked as he doesn't entered any like larger in real life events recently.
He's been entering a lot
Doran,
of TMTs, right, KoDoRiN?
Yeah. Funny enough, Meds and SUJ, the two consistent TMT entries, although they tend to enter when either isn't there, so maybe they're dodging. But yeah, they tend to win. SUJ wins pretty much every time. Meds is like 80% of the time, I'd say. I'd say the sets that he loses is when his Mart's not really on point. So if I like on paper, this looks very clear cut SJ Albert, but there's a lot of question marks. Like you would expect in low tide city that SJ Albert, their SJ is gonna win easy, top two minimum. Albert top six minimum. Like shouldn't be losing to puffs and peaches, but we didn't really see that. Like maybe like they forgot how to handle tournament pressure, or they just haven't really refreshed certain matchups. So it's like that's also like a big question mark. Is like did they clean up some slot that they were dealing with at low tide city? Because like like who would predict SFOP beating SUJ and Gatsu beating STJ? Like those are like it's not an excuse that he doesn't know this matchup like he does. So it's like is it like maybe like nerves, or like he wasn't prepared very well? So like that's like the big question mark.
Doran, you're someone who knows Falco pretty well, not just because
I
of
do.
like your good record against like the top Falcos, but also coming up in SoCal with Deer Squid and everything. I want to get your read on Albert because this is a guy that when Toph and I talked about the Smash World Tour like on the West Coast field, I brought up the fact that Albert, I feel like I just don't have a read on this guy, like what his like Falco style is, what to expect from him. Because every time I see him like in an SCL or something, it's like, oh, Falco's here or Albert's here. Yeah, I guess he'll do pretty well, but I don't know if he'll beat Polish. Oh, he beat Polish. Uh, that's great, but like Gatsu's pretty tough. Oh wow, he beat Gatsu, and like I feel like he's like one of those sleeper players who like you think about like the second or like third level of Falcos, right? We talk about Ginger and Fiction, but then you got like people like I mean, if you're a real believer, you think of like Flash, then you think of like Magi maybe. I feel like or like Bobby. I feel like Albert's not that far off, and I feel like he's very much in that like conversation with them. And I want to get your read on like what to expect from him and like what you think his strengths are.
Well, I could probably say that Albert is definitely playing Nickelodeon more than Melee right now. I
Oh
don't
boy.
blame him for that.
He's very
He,
good,
he made
from what I
he
heard.
made more money than me participating in the crew battle. That's for sure. Um, I would say that Albert's kind of like a more active Santi. Like he has like all this accumulated skill and knowledge throughout his years of playing. Because I don't know, people think of Albert as like a new school player, but he's actually played for a very long time. And when you play for that long, you don't just simply forget some things. Like the reason why he could just show up and do well out of nowhere is because like he still remembers. But at the same time, when you don't put in the effort and practice anymore nearly as much as you did before, it's like you're gonna drop some sets to like double puffs. Like that's gonna happen. Uh, we only see one Peach. I think Albert is significantly stronger against Peach than he is against Puff, given how I saw some complaints from Blue's Clues sometimes about how Albert just bullies him all the time. And you can't really ever count out, like as Mega would say, around this level, you can't really count out Falco versus a Fox. Although it's possible Meds could go Marth, but I kind of doubt it. But uh, and I don't know if Albert's really taken sets off of S2J, but I feel like it's possible in my head. But I definitely favor SJ 7-3. My read is that Albert's gonna grind really hard last second after he's done with his Nickelodeon grind and perform like up to second. I don't think he's gonna get first, but I think he's gonna get second from like the last minute setting he's getting in.
I think that's a good read. Yeah, Albert. It's funny. I feel this way about a lot of top players, and I don't truly know why this is the case. I don't know if I'm unique in this way, but I'll see a player on the come up, and my view of how they'll how good they could play is like pretty broad. Like you mentioned, SFOP beating S2J. I wasn't very surprised by that. I tend to think like up and comers. I think really highly of them, and then for some reason you reach this point where you are better than you were, but suddenly it's like, yeah, I truly have no chance of beating this person. Um, I'll look at Albert, who's considerably better than he was before when he was on the come up in like 2018 or so, and yet the type of player who I think he could lose to for some reason in my mind is just like I feel like less certain about certain people. So I don't know why that's the case, but it tends to be like that on my mind. Yeah, I think Albert, it's tough to call it right now, but yeah, I mean, like in a pool like this is definitely a pool where he could do well. It's a pool where I think that a couple mistakes here and there, and he could be the last seed in this pool. That's just generally how these pools are going to be for North American West, and what we're going to see for North American East. Um, so I don't know. We did this for the European event, so we have 8 people who are going to make the finals. Let's go around. We got 4 of us now, so we can do 2 apiece. Let's go and make predictions as to who is going to make it. I'm going to start. I'm going to say KoDoRiN.
Wow.
Shocker.
KoDoRiN, who do you pick? No, sorry, we'll go
Wait,
around in a circle. DarkGenex, who do you got?
I'll go with Plup. I know it's a little bit of a shock. Might be a little out there of a pick. I think that his multiple characters, Fox, Sheik, if he decides to pull out, I don't know, Luigi or something, I don't think he will. But he's got a really good matchup spread. I think he's the best of the players here. He's been playing a lot of Nickelodeon as well. We talked about Albert playing Nickelodeon. Plup's Reptar and Nigel have been putting in a lot of work in these crew battles and in like the juice box and stuff. But I think he's accumulated enough skill and knowledge over the years that I think he'll be fine. So I'll give it a plump.
Now, for clarification, you mean who will make top 8, or not necessarily who
Yeah.
will be top 2?
Yeah,
Top
who'll make top 8? Because anyone who makes top 8 is going to get a
Yeah.
free pass into the World Finals that we're
I
going
have
to
a
see in
hard
December.
I have a hard time not seeing SJ there. Then, like he could royally screw up in Pool C, but I think he'll pull through.
Edwin, we picked 3 of the 4 top seeds. What's your pick?
You know what? There's a lot of really good choices. I'm gonna go with my heart here. I spent too much time reading Althusser with him to count out Captain Face Roll.
Oh boy,
I
you and
think
your
he's-
little leftist literacy club.
I was really I was like internally debating face roll as well, but it's like, dude, there's 2 foxes that could pull out back air face roll to death.
Yeah, I'm gonna regret this when Billy Bo Peep like 3-0s everyone in this pool.
Like 3 stocks him.
Yeah, I'm gonna like he's gonna 3-stock him, and then like he's gonna win game 2, and then I'm just gonna be like, oh, okay, well,
Like I want to believe too, but
no, come
dude,
on, Face Roll, I believe in you. Just get in a rhythm, Sheik just get grabs. That's all Face Roll has
all
to
you
do.
need to do is get grabs. All right, easier said than done.
He gets wake up shine one
That's all he
time
has to
and then
do.
Here, Edwin, actually, let's make this a little more fun. Let's do a snake style. So you just pick face roll. Take your second pick.
Jackson Jordan game 6, or Tyson Jackson Jordan game 6. No, my second pick is gonna be SFAT.
Okay.
Solid pick. I guess I'm next.
It's tough. It is tough. We took all the first seeds from you.
No. It's not just that. It's like I'm thinking also how it could potentially play out in losers as well.
Hmm.
Like, if it was top 2 each pool, I think it's easier. But
Yeah,
who will make
I
top
agree.
8? I think I'll go with the sleeper pick. I think Billy will make it out to top 8
Whoa.
because Geo, like me and Noel talk a lot, and he says that he plays Billy a bunch and talk to him all the time. Like Billy actually like puts in mad work to the game, and he says that once like there's no restrictions, he starts attending events again. He thinks Billy's gonna be one of the highest like contenders when tourneys return. Like he thinks he's like top 20 easily.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy definitely someone who I think has been on that drugged fox sauce recently.
Okay, a little too much drug box sauce. I would say that, but like
Okay, if he's on a
nevertheless,
little too much drug fox sauce, then he's not playing singles again.
That's actually
but
wild that 3 people from the same pool have been picked so far.
yeah, I do think Pool A has like the most heavy sleepers, and that's only because they're inactivity.
True. Yeah. Justin, are you gonna finish off pool A?
I was going to finish off Pool A, but I'm looking at all because like you got to think about this in terms of like all the players in the tournament, not just in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a single mid tier player. I don't see a single Jigglypuff. I see a lot of Spaceys. I think this is a very, very good pool of players for Kalamazoo. And I think that no matter what happens in Pool D, I don't think there's a combination of players that he runs into where he can't beat 2 of them in a row to make top 8. So I'm going to go with Keizu. My heart says Fat Goku, though. I really want Fat Goku to make it.
Ooh, you're putting me in a tough spot. Keizu is one who I wanted to pick. I think he's very strong, even if even if we haven't seen much of him recently. I think that the level up that he had over the pandemic and even before the pandemic was pretty strong. And I mean, it'll just kind of be a testament to like whether or not the platitude about like having a high Peach having like a high ceiling is true. But yeah, it'll be cool to see him. I could finish out Pool A. That'd be very funny. But ooh, as much as I like Fat
Crazy.
Goku,
One picks for Pool B and C then.
I might need to go with Fat Goku's kayaking partner. I'll go with Fiction. I think this might just be me really wanting to see this. But Fiction's Falco is so funny to me. It's like a car crash in a way. I can't stop looking at it. It's very good and also really hard to watch. And I would really want the opportunity to see it more. And I think that Falco or Fiction's Falco doing well here and being able to go to the finals would be really, really cool to watch. And just like opening up the number of players who he would play with this Falco, I think would be really cool.
I,
So as much as I'd like to say Fat Goku, I'm gonna have to go with Shep on this one.
I think that's like the funniest compliment I've ever heard. Because if you say that to like Bobby, that's not what you mean. When the same image of when you call Fiction's Falco a car crash.
Yeah, I
It's
once
the
heard
nicest car crash I've seen.
Yeah, I once heard Fiction. So I've made it no secret that I watch a lot of Fiction lessons. I'm just like a big fan of his YouTube content, his like educational stuff. And one of the things he said in his Falco lessons is, anytime that you play Falco and you feel really scared in the corner, but you don't want to commit to something, just jump. Just jump in the corner. That's all you have to do. Make sure your opponent can't hit you and fall down with a laser. Just jump. It's so annoying to deal with. Trust me.
I love how Fiction talks about the game. Actually, I like how Fiction talks about the game. I love how he talks about players. I don't know how players feel about it,
uh,
but he does not mince words, and
yeah.
he's able to come up with some of the most unique, usually rudest things to
Yeah.
say about a player in the fewest words possible.
Yeah.
Uh, and for that, as someone who is not on the top 100 with him and will
Be
not face his
grateful.
ire, I love to see it.
He will definitely have some choice words if he were to make top 8. Be like, wow, freest top 8 ever, or something like that in his fiction language.
Yeah, it'll
But
be nice to see that in the
everyone
midst of all his
sucks.
tweets about how like why were we put onto this earth? Like all these like cosmic tweets that he keeps making. It'll be nice to see him made top 8. Would it have made top 8 if people practiced or something? However he speaks.
Yeah, he's gonna find a way to not be happy about it.
Yeah, wouldn't have made top 8 if people weren't automatons.
I'll never forget. In January I got a lesson from Fiction for Fox Falco, for my set against Mango at LACS. I forget the exact wording, but he said to me basically in verbatim that if I knew how to choose moves, I would have beaten Mango, but I did not know how to select moves as Fox. I picked every option poorly, but I won neutral.
I think
And it
in
was
the
like
very, very
wild.
famous, well, infamous, the stream that like it's up there with like the Library of Alexandria in terms of lost content. There's a stream where he went through the top 100 and gave his thoughts on every single person, and unfortunately, only a few Twitch clips exist of this. But I believe at the time he said that in true skill, he is better than HBox. It just in results, HBox is better.
Yeah.
Which is great. At the time, he also said in true skill, Mango's way better than HBox, which was funny because results didn't kind of follow that. And then,
Yeah, we
yeah,
have
the
Here we
one
are.
definitive result that says Mango is better than HBox. It's like that. It's like how people would unironically like make a PR based on like the latest tournament results, except that's unironically what we do now. If you were to make a 2021 rankings.
yeah, but when you can put Mango at number 1, people will do it. Like if Mango didn't win that tournament, people would be like, "Well, we need more data." But
yeah,
now
yeah.
that he did,
It's like
everyone's like, "We
how
know he's the best."
it's like how one of the MPGRs Mango was ranked higher than MTK because he was more consistent, and the other one is like, oh, it's because he had higher peaks. It's like,
MPGRs are very funny. I cannot wait for them to come back.
yeah,
There's nothing
I
that's
want
like
it back.
more annoying to me than people talking about rankings. But man, it's hey, talk about car crashes. I can't get enough of it. I keep coming back.
Yeah,
Uh,
but despite all the flaws of it, it does need to come back. You know, it's either whatever variant PGR is gonna come up with, or
hmm.
the blur rankings. Do you guys want the blur rankings?
Yeah, hopefully, PGR in some way, shape, or form will be back. Hopefully, the blur rankings never will come to fruition. But I'm sure that someone like you will do super well on those. Someone who's really showed their stuff, and I'm sure that this
Yeah, and
weekend.
I got no reward off of it.
Oh yeah, you're on the Melee Stats podcast.
I got no monetary reward for it.
Okay,
He also
well,
just like showed up at my house to
Yeah.
get on the Melee Stats podcast. It wasn't because you
yeah, you
got
were
a bunch of
invited.
results. You actually invited.
I hope you guys don't mind. I mean, illegally looking at the pool. Which, by the way, what time is it? What time does those pools do we need to show up? If you
uh,
happen to know that schedule.
what
I
time
think
will
it's
they
two.
be on Smash UG?
What time do top players need to show up and the stream would actually start?
I think it's 2 p.m., but I may be wrong.
Yeah. So this, I mean, I will talk to you about this.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
but for people who want to watch, you can tune in. I believe pools start at 1 p.m. The specific pool times will be yet to come, but yeah, all the action will start on VGBC on Saturday at 1 p.m. And yeah,
it'll be fun.
KoDoRiN, I will see you there.
Yeah. By the way, I heard the comment about comparing SoCal 2014 and 2020. Why'd you skip my name? You think I'm worse than 2014 Ken? Huh? Hello? You
It
bring up
wasn't part
Nut
of the
and Noah,
joke. It,
but
it
not
didn't
me?
fit. Didn't fit the rhythm of the joke.
Come on. That didn't look, I didn't laugh at that.
Go on, I didn't
Everyone
laugh
else might
either.
have.
That's why I
I did
didn't
it.
win. That's why I didn't win. Maybe if I
Uh,
said your name, I would have won the point.
Did you know he was here?
No, I saw like someone in the reflection of your TV, but then I felt weird for looking at that. I felt very intrusive.
that's very perceptive. Wait, is that
Uh,
KoDoRiN?
it
No,
looks like
stop
the
it. Pay
shadow
attention.
Doran.
yeah, that'd be weird if he was at DarkGenex's house waiting to pop in after waiting for an hour and a half.
Well, I'm glad that you did.
That's fun.
Unfortunately, you weren't able to be on the full episode, and we are kind of coming to the end of the episode here. I know it does feel like we have so much renewed energy because of you joining, but we are coming up on
Yeah.
on
True.
two. This is just over 2 hours, so we are
Yeah.
coming to the end of the show. I think we had a lot to talk about. You know, SmashCon, Fall Fest, featuring top 16 placer DarkGenex. We talked about one of the most stacked European things that we've seen in a long time, and we talked about a really stacked event for North American players.
And no fluxes.
And we talked
Yeah.
about no fluxes, and
No fluxes.
I'm really happy that we got all this in just over 2 hours, and I think that I had a really great time doing so, talking to one of my good friends and two guests, one guest and one surprise guest.
What up?
For people who've watched the show before, you know, we have this segment which is unnamed because the name that I pitched for it, touching grass, was very quickly shut down. But it basically, I think a lot of people in the Smash scene are really only known for Smash. You know, we are kind of seen as people who only play melee, and like that's all we do for the entirety of our like waking lives. But we are more than that. So I want to talk about stuff that we've been into recently that's not been related to Smash. So it could be stuff that's going on in our lives, or it could be something within the past week that's been interesting to us. I will go first. So I want to mention you know, we did not have a podcast last week to celebrate the second wedding anniversary of Edwin Budding. But that past week, while you guys were watching Ambi's wonderful interview with Dr. Piggy, I was on a little bit of a mini vacation. I went on a road trip to I was in around Virginia Beach. I was in Norfolk, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and ended up in DC. Ended up getting to see the wonderful Fendrick Lamar, and that was just a really fun time. Getting to hang out with some friends from high school. Getting to see some places that I've never been. I've never been to Richmond. I've never been to DC. Just getting to kind of take in like cities at my own pace and get to be able to walk around is something that I really enjoy doing. And it's one of those kind of fun things that you see from Smash is that like you kind of get thrown into cities that you've never been before, and you just kind of gotta fend for yourself and walk around and really take the city in. And being able to do that for like a city just on like a casual vacation was very very fun. I mentioned how I mentioned Fiction and Fat Goku as kayaking partners. I went kayaking for the first time since I already did it. I can say I liked it, but at the time it was like a horrible experience. I was wearing jeans and I was wearing sneakers because I didn't know we were going to do this. It was very hot. My sunglasses kept like falling from my face.
Oh,
I was very wet. But now that I did it, I will say it was a very fun experience. So I guess that's something that I've been into recently is just traveling and friends. And I can't wait to travel with more friends soon. Um, Edwin, what have you been up to recently?
oh God. So
What
just for
leftist book have you been reading?
Well, so this is a random thing that I've just picked up again. Sometimes I just pick up like these hobbies and then like I drop them, then I pick it up again. So I've randomly just gotten really into like listening to different like pop singers and just like just like vocal singing in general, like like singers ranges. Like I watched all these videos about like singers with the biggest ranges in like music or in the pop industry and stuff. So it's led me to revisiting a lot of artists that I sort of just like kind of casually listened to in high school or like when I was younger and just kind of like revisiting their pop hits and like I've just been on a bit of like a Rihanna binge. Like Rihanna low key ruled the game. I just sort of took it for granted, but she has so many bangers like Work, Rude Boy is awesome, SOS, Only Girl in the World stuff. Like Rihanna, she was just like she straight up was like the queen of pop. I feel like I sort of associated her with like like the rock label and like all these other artists that I listened to more of during the time. But like in hindsight, like Rihanna is so much more relevant and industry impactful than like even some of my favorites. And it kind of floors me. Like I mentioned this to my sister who's like a really big Beyonce fan, and I was telling her like, I don't know if Rihanna has an incredible album. That's the one thing like. I don't think she has a classic album, but I would say as far as like genre versatility, impact, and like just being relevant in like the Billboard charts and having music be good, I think like it's not even close. Like she's far ahead of the pack, and in like 10 or 15 years, if not less. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see Rihanna basically have a case if she doesn't already for being the like one of the pop goats.
Yeah, she I feel like at the time she was kind of compared to Beyonce. Kind of like being the less family friendly version of Beyonce, kind of like not as conscious of overall image. And someone who was kind of compared to be like more poppier and not caring about like albums and such. But I think how people look back at her will be really, really generous. Even though she's a billionaire, and there's no way to become a billionaire
Right.
that is morally or ethically right. Um, despite that fact, she has had like a really, really great string of singles, and has been like, even if she does not have an album cycle, even if she's not in an album cycle, for years she was always on the billboard because like she would release like one single and it'd be great. Yeah, that's a very odd choice from you. I did not expect that, but I really agree with that. What about you, Justin? What have you been up to recently?
So outside of Smash completely, Nickelodeon and Super Smash Bros. Melee are probably the second and third most played games that I've been playing this year. The number one game I've played this year is actually a Korean MOBA battle royale, which is free on Steam called Eternal Return. And I started playing that in, I think like April of this year because 404 Cray told me to play it, and I play it like Plup plays it, Odie plays it, Miranda, a lot of like CFL plays it. And I've worked my way from being like a scrub to being like the best player of my character in North America and like a top 50 player. And I've just been playing a lot of that recently. So I'm the best Barbara player in North America in that game, and I've been wearing like the Herbs tag and the Barbara tag at like every event that I've been going to. And just a really fun game. Like enjoyed being part of the community and just like meeting a lot of people. And over the last week, so at the end of every season, similar to how like League of Legends will send their top ranked players like jackets or stuff, the Eternal Return like developers will send the top players uh, some sort of memorabilia to mark that you are top X. This is the first season of the game where I'm considered like a top North American player, and there's a lot of like people who smurf. So although I'm top 50, I'm like barely under top 50 on the ranks. So I've been just grinding a lot of that recently so I can try to hit top 50, because if you get top 50, they send you a pillow cushion of one of the characters like plush familiars. So I'm just trying to get myself a pillow. So that's been what I've been up to aside from Smash Community in the last couple of
I
weeks.
I for one hope you get that pillow. And you mentioned jackets as something that people will send out. Um, KoDoRiN, famously, Melee stats, if you make it to 5 podcast appearances, you get a jacket. This does not count towards your 5. You are still at 0. You were not invited onto this. If
not
you
point five.
if you run 4 more times, you will not get a jacket. Um,
What about 4.5 more times?
4.5 doesn't get you anything. 5.5, you'll get a jacket, and I don't know. I'll write MS on a T-shirt and I'll give it to you. But what have you been up to?
I
You been up to anything?
Yeah, so it's kind of part of my genetics and uh, an obligation for me to really be into StarCraft Brood War. I watched that game a lot. ASL, it's like Africa Star League is the super major in Korea, and that's been going on. They're currently in the round of 8. Uh, Decent amount of upsets. It's like such a deep game. I consider Melee like the second hardest game. StarCraft Brood War is number one. Like how I like describing Brood War is it's basically like playing Melee, like all the mechanics, plus you have to TO at the same time. Like you have to like be worried about somebody that's calling for a lag test, and also like be like fight somebody that's trying to like run you down really hard as well. Because your worker is not gonna work on their own. You gotta tell them, and they get stuck. They're not gonna solve that on your own. You gotta get your ass over there and tell them to do what they want you to do explicitly. You can't just tell them to go like 10 miles apart and then they just don't go there. Uh, so that's how I describe. That's why I think Brood War is a harder game. It's basically melee plus TOing at the same time, and it's really fun.
Maybe Armada should do it. He should get into Brood War.
The how's the EU? Well, basically, Brood War is really only a thing in Korea, so like not as strong anywhere else. But yeah, would be fun to see him get into it. But yeah, it's actually something I've known since I was a kid. Like my family just watched a bunch of Brood War. Actually, when I visited Korea when I was in fourth grade, like literally our family just made like one pit stop to like a really big Korean tournament, like a pro league. And
That's
I
so
was just
awesome.
literally part of the crowd. Like I was there
So
being part
cool.
of the esports crowd without realizing it. In fact, I still did not realize it that I slept during one of the games because I was tired.
Oh no.
So looking back, like what the fuck? This is literally never gonna happen again. But yeah, like like at that time in 2009, like it was like literally bigger than like Korean soccer. Like it would get more tickets than Korean soccer, and it was so big. And I still follow it pretty closely. I'm also thinking that once it's mainly off season in December, like once like after Smash World Tour, I'm highly considering getting some lessons. So then like on playing a little bit of StarCraft. So like my goal is to be good enough like SCJ, and then I could like have close sets with him because
Yeah,
SCJ
he
does
isn't
play a
he
lot of
very
StarCraft.
good?
Yeah, he's decent. Yeah, he's like C rank, which is like pretty good. It's like if I were to translate, okay, if I were to translate that into grand scope of things, that's like going 1-1 or 2-2 at like
Oh
uh
boy.
Oh,
a random
jeez.
local. But like for StarCraft, like but like like how we tend to undermine that in melee when in reality that's like hundreds of hours that you put in, and that's like SG skill. For me, I'm like literally E rank or like the lowest of the bottom of the barrel because like I don't play the game at all. But still, putting hundreds of hours to be like C rank in the StarCraft ladder is like very good. It's just like, of course, you're not top 100 level or anything, but like you still have to put an insane amount of work for that. So like that's like my goal is that like I want to have like entertaining competitive sets with him. It could be our thing that no one else does. Uh, and besides
Speaking
Dark,
of
well, what are you gonna say?
oh, I was just gonna say, speaking of Star, I know you're talking about Brood War, but HP from Chile was actually pretty legit at StarCraft too. I think he was
Yeah,
actually like professionally ranked, like in the like he was one of the best players in the world,
yeah,
or
that's
he
cool.
still is.
Yeah, probably. It's too bad that very much of the sentiments we have with Nintendo is very similar to how StarCraft players feel about Blizzard. Literally StarCraft 2 just might die by 2022 since their biggest tournament, GSL, is not going to be supported by Blizzard anymore. So,
Oh damn.
uh, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to StarCraft 2 past 2022, but StarCraft 3 is definitely not in production. But besides StarCraft, I've also really been into poker. We've been studying a lot about pre-flop for a couple months now. So I'm really bad at post-flop, so I'm gonna get into that soon. So
Are you as good as
that's been my
Tafo?
thing. No,
Good as
Well,
my money.
maybe.
no.
Oh god. Maybe one day you'll be able to have close matches with Tafo and poker, and then close matches with SCJ and Brood War,
Yeah,
and beat the brakes off both in melee. That's the dream.
And
yeah.
maybe KoDoRiN, when you get bored of all that, you can get into rock band vocals with me.
Oh god. Don't join them.
I think there might be better partners out there. I'm
I
not
was like top 50 in the world in rock band
Yeah. Did you get a
vocal.
pillow for it?
no, I got nothing.
I was good
Nothing
at
to
the
show for it.
drums. I was good at the drums. Not really a vocal guy though.
Maybe. Well, at Genesis 8, we'll bring a rock band. Like we'll bring Rock Band 1 for the Wii or
Nice,
something.
nice. Yeah, it's been so long
We'll put this expert vocals to the test. But yeah, no, that's super cool. I know that a lot of people kind of bring up StarCraft when they bring up Melee, so it's. I mean, a lot of people do that and don't play the two, so it's really cool to see that
Yeah,
you're actually putting the time in.
it's only the Koreans that actually know. And what nationality are me and SCJ? Take a guess.
True. I'm glad that you're having fun with that, and yeah, I hope to see you rise in ranks for that. Hey, if
Yeah, I
people
mean,
want to follow your, I don't know if you're going to be streaming this at all, but if people want to follow you on streaming or on Twitter,
as
where can they find you?
yeah, as soon as I get back, I have a special video prepared, and that will be my basis for my stream for now. And I know I haven't been very active on it, I felt like it kind of lost direction for a little bit. Plus, internet doesn't really help, or the latest net play issues I've been running into that hasn't really been helping. But I will return to it by sometime Wednesday or Thursday. Um, and it will be at twitch.tv/KoDoRiN1, the number one. And you could follow my Twitter at KoDoRiNSSB. I also have a Medify giveaway that you could join if you want. That's Smash World Tour. Look it up, and then you could like and retweet that. I will say that, like, I am improving as a player, but how I got into the scene first was by consuming a lot of content, and talking about stuff like this is like I listened to every single commentator's curse, back then. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I'm also like a big stream monster DJ back in the day as well. So like doing this is like very reminiscent of that for me. And it's
Hell
like,
yeah.
yeah, I really like doing this sort of thing as well. Like, like how you saw me reminisce with a lot of each pool. It's like, yeah, so many things can happen. I like know a lot of history and like the stats with these guys.
It'd be fun to have you on for an episode where you actually get invited instead of just popping up. But until then, we're just gonna have to live with this. You
Hey,
mentioned content.
one of
Yeah,
them, I was kind of invited, and then I said no, and then I said yes last second, and it's like, oh, but it's too late.
yeah,
We're back
and because of that, we are mad at you and might never get invited again.
there.
But
Yeah, you actually go to -1 in the jacket count for that.
yeah, you're usually
No,
blacklisted. No,
no.
it's fun. Hopefully we can figure something out because I think that'd be a good time. But you mentioned content. We love content. Content's what makes the world go around. And who is better at content in the world of Smash than DarkGenex himself? Justin, where can people follow you for all of the content that you create?
So I haven't posted a meme in a while, but I've been working on some. I've got a really big one coming up that I've been working for over a month on secretly. So that hopefully will come out relatively soon. So maybe you'll see that on your Twitter timeline. If you don't follow me already, twitter.com/darkgenex. I've got a YouTube channel.
Closing
I've
on
got
10K, right?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I've been at 9.8 for like 3 months. So I haven't posted a meme in like, or like a really big meme in 3 months, like a really big pop off. So hopefully I hit 10K by the end of the year. We'll see what happens. I've got a couple of things in mind that might get me there. But regardless, twitter.com/darkgenex. I've got a YouTube, I've got a TikTok, I've got all of that stuff to repost my videos, but you can find all of that at darkgenex.com. And if you want to follow NYC Melee, twitch.tv/NYC Melee and twitter.com/NYC Melee for the nightclub, which will have this guy tomorrow.
You know,
I'm
you
so afraid of Whiskers.
You're not even seeing to play him anymore.
I'm so terrified of him.
might lose to Hoborg.
Ah,
We'll see.
ugh.
Yeah, Justin, you've got something that we don't. You've got a video on YouTube with 1 million views. So,
I do?
don't you?
No,
Don't you
the
have a
highest.
short? Oh,
No,
Zets. That's
Zets.
Zets.
So Zets' highest
Not
short is
Justin.
5 million views. My highest is like I
Five.
think 275K, which is
Yeah,
not bad.
it's
It's
just
not bad, but
Okay.
yeah.
It's rookie
Well,
numbers.
I was gonna say that you have a higher view than anything that we do, which you do not.
Wait, that's not true. That's not true. You guys like your Prince of Boo video has like 273, I think. Or like
What?
It's at like 380
Yeah, we're
now.
over that.
Yeah.
yeah, or 300. What do you mean that?
Yeah, we
You
have
guys,
over. We beat
give you
him
guys some
out.
credit.
No, Zets is the one who
Zets
has
is the
all
one
like
who
Yeah.
blows us out
Yeah.
in that. But you and Zets both kings of the content game. Yeah, I mean, talking about YouTube content, we if you wanna see the videos that we make, they're over on the Melee Stats YouTube channel. And we have a video coming out in the next week. It's going to be out on October 25th, and it's Edwin. You want to reveal the name?
Oh,
We've already
I'm
revealed the name, but
excited.
It's the game Nintendo wishes it never made.
Wow.
so if you have been following Melee if you've been following Melee at all at any point, you probably know the contentious relationship with our wonderful overlord Nintendo. But obviously, this is something that if you've been following in the past year, it's been a lot going on. So we decided to make a video to kind of go over that, talk about the history of Nintendo's relationship with this product that it created. This is probably the most collaborative video that we've ever done. This has been like a big labor of love between me, Edwin, and Ambi. This has been something that more than any Melee Stats video has been like equal-handed. Getting to watch it is really fun because it's like I will have a line, and then Edwin will have a line, and then Ambi will have a line in terms of writing. So it's really fun to see all of our visions come together, and I think that this is one of the best videos we've made in a long time. So if you want to watch that, it's going to be on our YouTube channel on October 25th. If you want early access to it, patrons are going to get an early look at it. It's going to be coming later this week. If you want to support us at patreon.com/meleestats, you can do so. You can get access to the patron channel and view stuff such as early sneak peeks. We'll probably be posting some outtakes and some other kind of miscellaneous stuff from videos like that. For that, we have a $5 a month tier where you can get all that. We do have a $2 a month tier where you can you're gonna get director's commentary for that. And I think for this video, it's gonna be really interesting just because of the collaborative effort. To hear all of our thoughts on it probably going to be pretty insightful. So if you want to catch that, that's the $2 tier on Patreon. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/melee-stats-pod. Obviously, we'll be posting anything we do there. And if you like the content we make through Waiting for Game, it's going to be live on twitch.tv/melee-stats, and it's going to be on the Melee Stats archive on YouTube if you want to catch episodes after they air. Justin, I really appreciate you being on, and KoDoRiN, I guess you're on too. I appreciate this as well. I didn't expect you, but this is a fun little surprise.
Apologies for butting in, but I just had to. The moment I saw my name, there's like, I'm teleporting in here.
This is fun. No, I appreciate this. One of the better surprises that I think could have happened in a Waiting for Game episode. So this was a blessing in disguise. Yeah, no, thank you guys so much for being on, and thank you for watching. We're gonna have a really great weekend of Melee content, and I cannot wait to come back and talk about it. And next week we are going to talk about what happened here and what's going to happen at the North American East event. Super excited to see that, and I'll talk to you guys then. Peace.
Take care.